everyone. Welcome to my Sunday night edition of Debi Daly Show with Mr. Solution. I am, of course, your host, Debi, with my co-host, Mr. Solution, getting off a rather interesting show that we had last night, and I have him with me now as we are together, not trying to find each other on the switchboard on Blog Talk Radio. Say hi, Mr. Solution.
Yeah, hi, Debbie. Good evening. How are you?
Well, I'm just fine. We ended up going bowling, and did I win? Who won? I forgot. You won.
Yeah.
Victor won. He cheated. No. Victor won. We played. We had my kids were there, and some other people were there, and we had fun. So we had pizza and soda pops and all kinds of fun and nachos, and we played games. And it was a fun birthday. So that was about all we did. But I sometimes I use my webcam as a mirror when I'm getting ready to go out. And I hit record, and I recorded some of it. So I sent a copy of it to you to show you what I look like actually today. Did you see the video I sent you?
I haven't had a chance to.
Oh, okay.
I will get to it, though.
Oh, it's only 20 seconds long. It's no big deal, but just... so how are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. Hopefully we can get some work done tonight, huh?
Absolutely, yes.
I hope so. You sound so much clearer. Did you get a chance to hear any of the playback from the show that we did last night?
Indeed, yes. I listened to it, I think, I listened to most of it.
Excellent. You know, I even astounded myself when I saw what I knew about Genesis, and I am just so proud of myself. I can't wait to continue on. I think we're in a very interesting, deep part of the story right now. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. Yeah, any venture into the Bible, because it deals with the essence of us. It deals with the essence of human beings, our creation. And I scour history and science for a better explanation than that given in Genesis. And I'm going to tell you just candidly, it's ludicrous the things that they come up with. Like recently I was listening to this science show. I love science. In fact, my background is science, and they're saying the comets, if you look at the hydraulic cycle on the Earth is very, very balanced, and obviously that goes into what we've spoken of many, many times before, the anthropic principle, the extreme fine-tuning of the universe and indeed the Earth to accommodate man. But they were saying that the Earth was hydrated by comets and meteorites. And I quote the professor. He said that our water is the result of comet and meteorite juice. So
were these real scientists that were saying these things?
I only listen to the best. Yes, they
Wow.
are very, very reputable scientists. But it just shows you how. Look, I don't disparage them, except a little bit, for what they're doing, because they are trying to uncover, where life came from. But I'm almost confident they won't find it as a naturalistic solution, because they have they're looking for other Earth-like planets, and when they find planets, it's just so hostile to life. It would not be carbon-based life. It would not be life as we know it. And I think that we're unique. In fact, many of them say that. They say that they suspected they would have found life somewhere in the universe by now.
Yes.
But
Don Henley of the Eagles wrote a song several years ago that says, "They're not coming, they would have been here by now." It was a very good song, actually.
Yeah, so I just, it's fun to listen to them, and rarely do they put a balancing perspective on, whereas they would even look to a supernatural cause for life, or a supernatural cause for existence itself, because there is no explanation of why. In fact, let me back up. I've said before, the greatest inquiry of philosophical probing is, why is there anything, opposed to there being nothing? And when you pose that question to so many people, their eyes just glaze over, or they start muttering and mumbling about something that is, totally irrelevant. But that is the quintessential question. Why is there anything?
And frankly, that's why most debates between creationalists versus I'm drawing a blank.
Biblist.
Thank you, Victor. Bibleist. Victor said Bibleist. Creationist versus I'm drawing a blank. What's the other word?
Evolutionists.
Victor said heathens.
Right. Evolutionists.
Right. They really. Victor said heathens. They lose the argument when you get down to that exact that idea of which you speak, which is when you get them down to, and they usually do lose arguments, as you'll see through the videos that I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen some of them. Even, Richard Dawkins has lost up against them, because when you get down to that part, how can something come from nothing?
Bingo.
Exactly.
That is both, that is logically impossible for something to come from nothing. You've got, and see, that goes to the point of aseity.
Exactly. That word. Tell the people that are listening now that may not have been listening back in those days about that word aseity.
Yeah, aseity just refers to it means existence by one's self. No outside, completely independent.
It sort of reminds me of when your parents used to say, you can't go, and you would say, why? And they would say, because I said so.
Right, and that is a form of it, ultimate sovereignty and authority. But with God, God's position is that God has always existed, and God exists of his own power. That's what the word aseity means, existing of one's own power, in this case, the deity, needing no outside source, none whatsoever, for the deity's existence. So that's what aseity refers to. And, we talk about, there are two ideas that come to mind. One is self-creation and self-existence. One is perfectly logical. Self-existence, which deals with aseity, is perfectly logical. And that's the way you get anything from something that previously existed. Whereas, something that self-creation is impossible, because a thing would have to, as they say, exist before it was. And that's a logical impossibility. It would have to be and not be at the same time. And that's nonsense. And God does follow logic. There are various scriptures such as, come, let us reason together.
Right.
And this is your reasonable duty. And so on and so forth. It's just that God is the ultimate and the consummate seat of reason.
I know so many people that I have ventured out and met throughout the months we've been doing this. They cannot believe that you and I have tackled the book of Genesis. They have said, Debbie, in my many years of preaching, I've never tackled the book of Genesis, just as a study, as an outright. It's a very difficult, very challenging book, because it is the beginning of the faith, the beginning of the belief system. It's, the God of Abraham. It's the beginning of the whole thing. And it's very hard to, people want to come in on the birth of Christ, or, along those lines, or they want to study the book of Psalms or what have you. But this is very difficult for us to be doing. And when I forgot to tell you, Mr. Solution, when I took the test that you took, I got 22. No, I didn't. I missed 6 questions in the exam that I gave you, the test that I gave you, by the way. I missed 6 of them. So I missed some of the names of the children. I didn't get the ones right when it said something about who did he have with, Rebecca or somebody, I forgot. But you did much better than I did. So, but I thought you would have scored a 100, and I still think you do, because I think a couple of those questions were, the way they were worded, it was kind of skewed, and
yeah, they were janky. They were not.
About the flood.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they were not direct. But the one about the well, no, it was overall a decent test. But as we say, tests never. I mean, I am a fan of tests. Make no mistake about it. I do believe in testing, but I think when someone attempts to put everything on testing, they're making a fatal error, and tests can be used to foster or to push one's own agenda, usually to exclude and to disenfranchise. Tests can be used for a myriad of reasons. I think I was looking at one. In fact, if you look at the early IQ tests, they were supposed to just assist people that had learning difficulties, and they morphed in the hands of, I think I'm going to say, evil or certainly nefarious, and certainly people who did not have good intentions, as tests that really discriminated against people and they became very abusive. So, I mean, it's just the intent of the test. But tests are good. I mean, they have perfectly legitimate value when they're used properly. And again,
I think assessment testing in school, whenever, like we were talking about, many of my professors, I remember several times in classes in college, in the university that I was at, the first day they would just try to assess where the class was in, say, American history or something along those lines. They would just give us a quiz at the very first of the class, just sort of to assess the class to see where we were. So I think, yeah, that's a good way.
Right, and then around tests, curricula can be developed that will remedy whatever problem there is. And I think I mentioned to you in at least one communication about the remediation. In other words, utilizing tutors and various methods to familiarize people. Culture tests always pretty much, they have a cultural angle to them, language/cultural and setting. And so, once one becomes steeped in the testing environment, I mean, a lot of people can take tests knowing nothing about the subject, particularly multiple choice tests, and do very well. And they may not know anything about the subject itself. So,
because you've got if you have a 50% chance or a true-false quiz, that's always another one. But, I don't understand how people nowadays with the internet do not literally make straight A's. I don't see how it would be possible not to, unless you're just goofing off and just not doing the work. I mean, you've got the world at your fingertips to do your homework with, and then studying for a test. You can only have so many tests per semester. And, my brother used to make straight A's, and people would say, how do you make straight A's? And he would say, because homework is a gimme. I'm going to make straight 100s on the homework. And then if I study for the test, whatever. But I just don't. Do you know what I mean? I don't see how people can keep from just acing through school with the internet. I wish I would have had it.
I know exactly what you mean. I used to say with pizza and the internet, I would never leave my domicile.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I understand precisely what you mean, because we're just flooded with information. The internet is almost an alien. It's an alien concept. I mean, there's never been a time in history. I mean, you talk about subsequent to the Gutenberg press, the invention of it, and how there was an explosion, of information. Now we have this internet. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. But let me say this. I was developing this a little bit recently. We're looking for extraterrestrials, and we have the greatest record of an extraterrestrial. And that's Jesus. The Messiah was an extraterrestrial. He said in his own words, I'm not of the earth. This is not my origin. I didn't originate here.
The first time I heard you say that, my heart leapt, because I thought that is so cool to think like that. I've never heard anybody say that before. I've never heard a preacher, a minister, anybody ever say that before. But what an amazing concept that Jesus
is a confirmed extraterrestrial.
He is an ET, yes.
Yes. And even his birth, his birth was unnatural, or we should say supernatural. Now, there were a number of miraculous births in the Old Testament. We have Isaac. Isaac was a miracle birth, but there it was different because we still used human beings to generate Isaac, and the same was true of John the Baptist. But Jesus' birth was unique. It was the unique of the unique. And, Jesus was precisely an extraterrestrial. Now, I think the reason people don't say that is because they're confused, they're scared, they may seem like a crackpot or whatever. But all the evidence is right there. And extraterrestrial just simply means that his origin was not of the earth.
Most recently, in more recent history, I have come to realize that when the Bible speaks of a virgin conceiving a child, I don't necessarily think that they meant a virgin in the sense that we mean it, because I've read so many accounts lately, Mr. Solution, that a virgin simply meant a young girl, a young unmarried girl.
Yeah, let me just...
You know what I mean? I know there's controversy around that everywhere.
Yeah, well, really there's not. I know people can make anything controversial.
True.
But it's very silly. If you even look at Mary, the person in question, she says, how will this be? When she was speaking to the angel Gabriel, since I know not a man. Okay, her knowing not a man, and know was the Old Testament euphemism for intimate or sexual relations. And that word can mean a young woman. But in this particular context, it would make no sense. It is young women, ipso facto, that give birth. So that would not have been a sign or a miracle of sorts. It was the fact that Mary was, and in fact it said she didn't have sexual relations with Joseph until she brought forth her firstborn. And even Joseph was, and I assume this is definitely so, because he had to be convinced by an angel that the pregnancy was not it was not treachery.
Exactly.
On the part of Mary, that she had not been unfaithful. So look here, this is the thing. People say things who have no sense of the context. You got to realize a lot of people their ability to interpret is faulty. And all you have to do is just look at them in a number of settings. And anyone who comes up with that particular conclusion has not read the scriptures. They have not read the scriptures in order to at least understand what the authors are saying. And they have an ulterior motive in the first place. Or they're just being a jackass. A lot of people just like to be contrary for the purpose of being contrary. But when you read the account of the virgin birth, it leaves no stone unturned that it means a woman who did not have sexual intercourse that resulted in her fertilization or impregnation, should we say. I mean, let's just be honest to the book. Now, you can say,
no, you're right, and that's when we have to go on faith. I wanted to show.
Wait.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's not faith. This is that. See, one can.
Well,
say,
faith in the book is what I mean.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
But one can say, I don't believe it. That's entirely different from saying it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Because there is a historical record of its occurrence. And the very life of Jesus, Jesus was the greatest miracle worker ever. And therefore, when you take it all in context, this was consistent with the life of what we would call the hypostatic union or the theanthropic person. Theanthropic person just talks about the God-man.
Right.
Theos and,
Right.
and anthropos in one body. And Jesus
I mean,
said,
Mr. Solution, I am but one person, and I myself have witnessed a miracle. You know that. You've heard me tell the story, right? I mean, and I am just one pebble of sand on a beach. And I myself have witnessed an absolute miracle that I believe was an absolute miracle, right? I mean, so think about that. If I did, how many other people have?
well, I don't exclude miracles, but let me just say this. A miracle means a suspension of natural law. That's the definition of a miracle, the suspension of natural law. And so when you have like an axe head floating, or like Jesus walking on water, or turning water to wine, the type miracles he did. Now, let me just say this, and then we can go on as you please. But it was brought up that Jesus did not restore the missing limb of an amputee, correct? You recall that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, now I had issues with that too, by the way. I did. But, being one that likes to let the research speak for itself, Jesus actually surpassed that. Because when he brought the stinking, putrefied body of Lazarus back from the dead, see, there are certain things that supersede and have a greater impact than other things. So the fact that he could recreate, which is what he had to do, and bring life back to a body that was stinking. We're not talking about clinical death here. We're talking actual graveyard dead, as they say. And if he could do that, he could easily restore the limb of an amputee. So he went way above the amputee. Would you agree with that? Now, I know we're supposed to, there's nothing wrong with debating these issues. I think it's...
No, I totally agree. I think that God had to do those things to get people's attention. I think that was his last big brouhaha. I mean, that was... I'm serious. No, I mean, to me, anything would be possible. And I think that he did those things to get people's attention. And he did get people's attention. There was a wow factor going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to do something for you that I'm going to give you a little sneak preview. Are you planning on going to see the film Son of God?
No. Well, but wait a minute. Before we move on to that, I just wanted to address this point to you because it was you played a clip. Mm-hmm. So would you agree that bringing one back from the dead after their body had began to deteriorate, that would be considered a miracle above restoring a missing limb?
Oh, I think that would be an act of paranormal act. I mean, it would be something out of just yes.
Okay. Well, see, if I may say so. See, that's the kind of argument, or at least, that's a type of argument that needs to be put on the table for the person, the naysayer. And there's nothing wrong with being agnostic. I think most of us are ignorant about things starting out, but I think we have an opportunity to learn. So when Jesus brought someone back from the dead, I think that covered comprehensively what he could do for the human body. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I also agree that if you were to tell those people back in those days what we're doing today, they wouldn't believe you. If I were to say, do you see this little credit card that I'm holding up right here? Did you know that this is a telephone that I can call around the globe and talk to anybody on?
Well, yeah,
they wouldn't.
That's.
But do you see what I'm saying? I mean, just because.
I do.
I mean, you have to realize that there's things that are going on today that people won't believe, that they would see as a miracle.
Yeah, that's in the area of technology, and that's true. Like if you tried to describe a supertanker to Columbus or any of the early sailors, yeah, they would have difficulty because there weren't any iron ships at that time. And yeah, but I mean, that's something that is, again, remedial. I mean, human beings have the same mind. In other words, when you look at the problems, the family problems, which is where we all really live to one degree or another, those are the same. Those don't change. The essence of human existence doesn't change. Sure, technology around us can change. We change our clothes and that kind of stuff. But that's more or less superficial stuff. You have people today that are, apart from technology. And even people who are, even in America, everybody doesn't have a computer, you see?
Right. No,
Yeah,
you're right. But
so-
I'm just talking about
Yeah.
what I mean is just the mind's ability to stretch and believe.
Yeah, I think you could get people from any age to understand people in any other age. Not all the people, of course, but many people. In fact, Job would be smarter than virtually any man today in terms of wisdom, philosophy, and this sort of thing. If you brought Job back today and fed him and, just brought him up to speed on a few things, he would kick in right away. Or any other brilliant person from times past. Because if you see the thoughts that they had, they actually superseded the thinking that we have today. And obviously we've advanced in the area of communication and transportation and in those areas, and food production. But we're still human, and we have the same concerns that always confronted us, in my humble opinion.
In your never to be humbled opinion. I wanted to play something for you real quick to jumpstart everything, and this is what you were talking about. It's self-explanatory. It needs no explanation, but it's a little sneak preview into the up-and-coming epic film to be released on February 28th called The Son of God. It's taken from my mini-series that I loved so much, which is, of course, the Bible. Take a listen. I think you'll figure out what's going on.
Get back to your father's house. Be quick.
Mary. Mary. The Lord is with you. Don't be afraid. You will soon give birth to a son. He will be the Son of the Most High. The Holy Spirit will move in you. Don't be afraid.
I am the Lord's servant.
The Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God.
Mary! Mary! Tell me what's going on, Mary, please!
I'm not here.
You're pregnant. What have you done? What on earth have you done?
There has been no one, I swear.
Well, there's been someone. I'm not
I'm
stupid.
still a virgin. This is the work of God. I don't know why I've been chosen, but I'm telling you the truth. You must believe me.
I thought I knew you.
Please, Joseph. I need you to be my husband. I need you to be the father of this child. The child of God. Please, my love. Please trust me.
Mary, God doesn't do this to people like us. If this be your work, Lord, please help. Help us.
Joseph, son of David, be at peace. Take Mary as your wife. She is pure. The child she carries is from God.
And that's what I wanted to play for you. Isn't that the most beautiful depiction you've ever heard of that before in your life? It is, and the angel Gabriel is played by this actor that is just, they're real tall men, and they're real big, and they've got on these gorgeous robes, and they have their heads covered up with this scarlet robe, and they've got these wings on their hands. It's just unbelievable. I know I talk about this all the time, but it's that fascinating. And it's going to be it's been made into an epic film that's going to be on the big silver screen here shortly on Coast to Coast on, in all the theaters. They took this exact part of the movie. It's called Son of God, and it's this exact film that we're looking at right here that I watched over and over and over again. But that was what we were talking about. That was the angel Gabriel coming to Mary and telling her what he told her, and then Joseph's reaction, and then when he came to Joseph. So I just thought you might enjoy listening to that before we go into our study here.
No, that's great, because see, all of that is evidence, and it's what you call building. Did you hear me? It's building a case, and when you put all the information together, it's very clear that Mary was a physical virgin. Now, there was a test. If a woman wasn't a virgin, if she was accused of having not been a virgin, or she was executed, and I can give you the scriptures on those. I believe it's in Deuteronomy, but there were strict scriptures regarding a woman being pure in Israel, and that's true of a lot of countries today in the East, Middle East.
It was also true of my father. Anyway, no, they talk about that. Before that happens, she's walking through the city, the town of Bethlehem that she's in, and they're all fixing to really start tearing her up, and that's when Joseph appears and says, "No, I will take her as my wife." And it's a really pretty scene, and then comes the massacre of the innocents, and it's just beautifully depicted. I'll tell you, I know I talk about it all the time, but I just love it that much. So I hope everybody has a chance to look at it on the screen or whatever.
Right, and I would say also read it in the scripture.
Oh, absolutely.
That is the artist or the producers, and a lot of times they take poetic license. Sometimes, Debbie, even though I do review or view biblical stories, it's often hard for me to do that because I've read the actual account, and when I see it, if it deviates, especially on a material issue, that kind of concerns me. Now, maybe I should relax a little bit, and just understand it's just for entertainment. But I like for it to, be as close as possible to the historical account.
I was reading the other day, now that you mentioned that, The rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar was responsible for the bringing of over 500 and something thousand. They did a survey, 560 something thousand young people to the Bible, to spirituality, to whatever you want to call it. Isn't that amazing?
That's fantastic, and that's what everything is meant to do. Because, in my understanding, God is creating a family, and He's doing it through the regeneration or the regenerative process of human beings. And then there's going to be a cutoff. Now, hopefully, He will have not hopefully, I shouldn't say it that way. God will have enough people to populate unique beings. We're unique. In fact, a lot of what's going on in the human realm, angels are looking into it. You can check that out in Corinthians. It talks about that. And I believe God is going to populate the entire universe with us, resurrected, as it were, and in what you call eternal bodies, or supernatural bodies. And but that's what's happening right now. Is people are being saved and entering into God's family in order to be with God forever. And by the way, if that's not true, then nothing else matters anyway. Because as our beloved Dr. Weinberg says, from his position, we are the result of millions of years of cosmic and biological accidents. And accidents have no intention or purpose. It's just a mistake. And so if you view your life that way, that's very sad, I would say.
I don't see how people do it. I really don't. I mean, I guess it's okay, but what a meaningless, that's a good word. What a meaningless existence, and what a sad and lonesome existence, because people can only fill so many of your needs and so many of, what I think is needed to survive on this planet, and the hope of something. And they say that to keep hope alive in one's life, you have to have a plan. You have to have something to look forward to, be it a vacation, be it an addition to your house, be it your car, anything. You have to have something in your life to look forward to plan on. And that, to me, is the ultimate.
Right.
And, yeah, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. Yes, you're right.
I think it's
100% right. We have to have something to look forward to.
Yes.
And God provides that. Now, we could provide more of what we need to look forward to, because God did create us for each other uniquely. Oftentimes we don't understand that, or we don't care to understand it. We prefer to be biased and bellicose and just hostile toward each other.
Well, and I think that lately it's become almost, in a way, in a really weird way, almost sexy or cute to be an atheist. I don't believe either. Only kooks believe in that stuff. Only my grandmother believed in that stuff. And I think it's more of like just an adult rebellious attitude to say things like that. And I'm like, I don't know. You need to go ahead and use it, Angel? Oh, my key. Look in my purse, my love. Right down here. I think, I drove. It'll be my bag. I think it's almost just a little thing that people do. But I think that in the back of everybody's minds, when they close their eyes at night, they wonder. They wonder, is there something?
Well, yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Our friend Tim, for example, who believes that the Anunnaki created man. Well, now the point is, who created the Anunnaki? What are, so people will substitute absolute lame brain positions for what's spoken of in the scriptures. And I'll just say this very candidly. The best account of creation, the most comprehensive account of creation, is in Genesis. And are accounts, and that would be understandable because those people broke off at the Tower of Babel or Babel. But the point of it is, the Genesis account is a very good account of how human life, how everything came about. And it makes much more sense, I should say, than the fanciful, nonsensical thinking of so many others. Even scientists don't know how. So let me just say this: scientists don't know how things came about. They don't. They're seeking, they're searching, they're trying to find out, but they don't know. And that BS about one thing they say is that the Big Bang, but they don't. They deviate from science even when they talk about the Big Bang, because they don't say, well, how did the Big Bang occur in light of inertia and cause and effect? They don't know how that happened, because technically speaking, the Big Bang should have never happened. If the material for the universe, call it the egg of the universe, had been stable forever, why did it change? What changed it? Mm-hmm. What force interrupted its stability?
Bingo.
See, they can't answer that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you take some of these, and I say this lovingly, some of these nincompoops like Tim, who talk about the Anunnaki created man.
Ugh.
What the hell does that mean? Who created the Anunnaki? You know, that is so silly. And by the way, the Anunnaki were pagan, heathen, Samaritan gods, as it were.
When you talk about Tim, it just I start getting exhausted.
Well, I like Tim, and Tim is Tim. I found out Tim's source for his insanity. It's the word is Granny Gunja. Gunja is, I don't know if you knew this, but since he wouldn't tell me, I looked the word up. And it means pot, cannabis. Yes. And so he smokes that pot, and then he comes on the air and bloviates. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't care about what anything means.
Yes. He attacked me on all sides, and I thought I held my own with him pretty good that time.
Well, you know what? And you did, but really there's no holding one's own with him, because he's not conscious of what's going on. When you smoke all that pot, and I asked him, I said, have you smoked pot? Did you smoke pot before you came on your program? And, of course, he wouldn't answer that. But, yeah, he's a pothead, and I don't hate potheads. I'm not against them. But if you're trying to have intelligent dialogue, I believe you need to leave the pot alone.
I agree on a certain level. Now, I don't smoke pot, but I've been around a lot of people that smoke pot, and it seems like when they're fine, and then when they go and smoke the pot and they come back and talk to me, they're sort of out there a little bit in the twilight zone. They giggle more and they laugh more, and they're not quite as serious or something. I don't know. They just sort of change on me. But you know,
you're right. You're right. He laughs out of term and almost as if there's an inside discussion that he's having with himself. And I noticed that, just picking up that psychological abnormality. But you're right. You're absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed that many times with people. I'm like, okay, I miss you. Come back.
Okay, we can proceed. Now, I will tell you, we left off at 28. Mm-hmm. We were looking at the treachery of our friend Rebecca, and how, you know, the great family difficulty. This is an example of the family difficulty that I was speaking to. That doesn't change. The way people live does not change. Their attitudes, their intentions, their ability to love, to understand, and this kind of thing, even to be hopeful. That seems to be consistent throughout the human existence.
Are you ready to get started? I'm ready to get started whenever you are. We are on chapter 28.
I'm rough and ready. Yes.
Okay, I hope it works. Remember the last time the reader didn't work. Let's cross our fingers and delve into Genesis 28, where we left off last time. I'll wait for you to hit mute. And here we go. Please play.
Genesis 28.
Yes.
So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. Then he commanded him, Do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of your mother's father Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there, from among the daughters of Laban your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful, and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham. Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau. Now Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had sent him to Padan Aram to take a wife from there, and that when he blessed him, he commanded him, "Do not marry a Canaanite woman," and that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and had gone to Padan Aram. Esau then realized how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father Isaac. So he went to Ishmael and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth, and daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream, in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." Early the next morning Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar, and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me, and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth."
And there we have birth of the tithe. Right?
Yes, we do. Yes, we certainly do. Now, what we have here, just a brief recap. You know, in 27, for example, now Rebekah was able to cover up. She was covering up her treachery. This sending Jacob off or back to her father's land, or to Abraham's homeland, was really to cover up, because remember, Esau had made a pledge to kill Jacob once Isaac died. And so Rebekah intervened. And she said here, you notice in verse 46 of 27, it said, "Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women, like these, my life will not be worth living." So see, this is the perfect cover-up for her treachery. And you notice she got, of course, Isaac to buy into it. Am I coming through okay?
Yes, you sound perfect.
Okay, great. All right, and it says, let me know if I'm not. It says in verse 28, verse 1, so Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. So you see, Isaac is buying into this. Isaac is blind. He can't see. And, of course, he's following what Rebekah has set up. It says, then he commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman. Now, that's understandable. And the reason for this is because they worshipped other gods. They were heathens. It had nothing to do with, skin color or even culture outside of the fact that they did not worship Yahweh. So the distinction that you will find made in the Bible against people that the Israelites were commanded not to interact with was based upon their relationship to God. That was the sole criteria. And in verse 2, it says, "Go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of your mother's father, Bethuel, and take a wife for yourself from there, from among the daughters of Laban." Now, Laban is going to be interesting, by the way. That's an interesting character. Your mother's brother. So there is this real strong family interest. We see this about marriage and having children and this sort of thing. So, that's something that's certainly expressed a lot. It says, "May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of people." And here he says in verse 4, "May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham." So here that comes again. We'll see time and time again, it'll be repeated. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, the promise started with Abraham. And then, of course, it's continuing on through Abraham's son, Isaac, and now through Isaac's son, Jacob. And Abraham is here referenced. Verse 4, "So that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham." So it's got a lot to do with that land. Verse 5 says, "Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau." So we have this family breakdown very clearly dealt with here. It says, "Now Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had sent him to Padan Aram to take a wife from there, and that when he blessed him, he commanded him, 'Do not marry a Canaanite woman.'" So now you see that Esau, they're still in contact, but he notices the displeasure of the affiliation with the Canaanite women. And we can, of course, read about the Canaanite culture. They were a culture that were opposed to God. And that was the primary reason. And verse 7 says, "And that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and had gone to Padan Aram." Esau then realized, notice this, how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father Isaac. So he went to Ishmael and married Mahathla. And remember, Ishmael was the son of Abraham through Hagar. Recall that. So Esau thought he would make amends by, doing it a little bit better in terms of his marital affiliation. It says the sister of Nebaioth and daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. So we see that Esau is practicing polygamy. He's married to more than one woman. And he takes on another woman, other than a Canaanite woman, who he thinks will be more pleasing to his father. So any observations up to this point there?
We do have a little bit in the chat room. They've got some rhetoric going on in there, which I think warrants at least giving some airtime to, and I'll tell you what it says. It says, well, let me back up. It says, let me back way up. Okay, it says, I've started typing and stopped 5 times. He goes, everyone can make a God claim. Hindus, Muslims, they all have God creator claims. You can get that from God to a personal God. And like I said, because we just don't know, you just don't do da-da-da. Robert M. Price is an American theologian and writer. He teaches philosophy and religion at the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary. Is the professor of biblical criticism at the Center for Inquiry And then he says, yes, blame the women, kill them for not believing in Yahweh. And then he says the Hittite religion was no worse than the Greek or Egyptian or Assyrian cultures. In fact, he said the Hittites were just Semitic people whose religion was more like the Egyptians. They ate pork, he says. And he's just following along with us and giving his opinion on things. And I like that. I like when people are involved. He says, maybe I'm thinking of the later Philistines. Do you know what he's talking about?
Well, not exactly, but I think the point that's being made here, it's not against women. This is something that Tim said, and I believe there are considered about 2.3 billion Christians.
Well, what was it about those women that rubbed him the wrong way? What was it? Do you know?
It was one thing. It was always their pagan practices. They worshipped other gods, and that was the dividing line. That was, you follow me? In other words, they didn't worship Yahweh.
Right. I remember.
That was the dividing line right there.
Was it Isaac or was it, which one was it? Did Ishmael get hooked up with, which one of them got hooked up in that culture? Was it Ishmael or Isaac? Because wasn't it, or one of Joseph's brothers? He had many brothers, correct?
Yeah. There were 12.
I know that he went into one of their tents. I remember reading in the Bible, and one of them had several. He said, "What are all of these pots, these little containers?" And he goes, "Oh, that is the god of tomorrow. That is the god of, energy. That is the god of this." And I remember he started destroying them and bashing them. And then, his brothers were very angry with him because Joseph was the favorite son of, is it Isaac? Jacob. Well, it's yes. kind of with the story that we're talking about, but I remember it had something to do with the Philistine women in that, because if you remember in Samson and Delilah, which is coming up fairly quick, Delilah was a Philistine woman, remember? And because Samson had married Delilah, Samson had married somebody else before Delilah. I'm confused maybe here, but Samson married a Philistine woman, and she was I think they killed her. They did kill his wife for that. Anyway, for some reason, they did not like those women back then.
Well, no. It wasn't just the women, and you'll find this is true with Israel too. When you read the Bible, and it gets, I won't say monotonous, but it certainly gets repetitive. And that's okay. We are a repetitive people. But God's biggest issue or heartburn with the nation of Israel, which were the offspring of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, was their own worship of pagan gods. They were always influenced by the cultures around them to worship other gods. That was it. That was the sole gripe that God continually had regarding them. You'll see it quoted in Deuteronomy, which is a recapitulation or restatement of the law, say given in Exodus, and you'll see, even in the Ten Commandments, you shall have no God before me, or no God instead of me. And that's what Israel constantly did. That's why they were dispossessed. They were, taken out of the land, led into captivity. It was always because of their unfaithfulness toward the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hello?
Yes, absolutely. I was listening.
Yes. So that's the... God doesn't give us a lot of things. We can't remember it anyway. And we certainly won't do it, apparently. That was the one thing. That was the one thing. That was the number one thing that God wanted, and Israel kept violating. Remember when Moses went up on the mountain, and of course Aaron, his brother, created a golden calf, and they were worshiping that golden calf. And Aaron said, well, it just jumped out of the fire. Yeah, right. And so that was the constant issue, is their disobedience, their unfaithfulness.
But the interesting thing about people of that day and age, Mr. Solution, as opposed to this day and age, is the men at least felt the need to have something to worship.
Explain further.
Well, as opposed to today, they have nothing to worship. I mean, maybe they secretly worship money. Money, yeah, or
materialism.
Exactly. Back then, they felt like they needed a god to worship.
Well, right? You make a great point. Polytheism was what was on the menu back then. Today, it's agnosticism or atheism. And these people, it's often been said, were too close to the original revelation to deny that God existed. And of course, they attributed to other gods, multiple gods, this sort of thing. But yeah, that's a good observation.
Well, they had a hard time believing in the God of Abraham because they could not see him, and they wanted a God that they could touch. Now it says here in the chat room, Israel was destroyed and absorbed into the Assyrian Empire. Only Judah remained. They had to give a reason why. Well, it was worshiping false gods. The people, the priest class was in the south. The good agriculture was in the north. Do you know what he's talking about?
Oh, goodness. I was Debbie, you ran off from a point I really think you need to develop more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was, you said that the people didn't believe in the God of Abraham because they couldn't see him.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted a God that they could touch. Now, you know that God knows that. Why do you think that God creates that sort of situation, with human beings? Why do you think God does that? What's the purpose of that?
I think it is to develop our belief in just what I call blind faith. Just believing that right?
Now, when you say blind faith, is that like having no evidence for one's faith? What is blind faith?
I've never seen God. I mean, that's what I think of with my eyes. Blind faith. The faith in something that I've never seen. I'm blind with my eyes, right?
Well,
blind faith, right? I mean...
Yeah, but blind faith, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that connotes no evidence, blind faith.
Well, that's what I mean. I haven't seen it. I believe it, but even though I haven't seen it.
Aha, but okay. But now let me ask you this, which is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to see things do you have to see something in order to believe in it?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, well, what's the difference? Why would it be? Let's use a word here. Let's introduce.
Okay, Victor's love for me. I don't see it.
Okay, but let me introduce a word just so we'll have a handle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about legitimate faith versus blind faith. Okay, you have just acknowledged that you don't have to see everything in order to believe in it legitimately. Why can't we apply that to God? And I'm just asking.
Well, I do, but why other people can't? I don't know. I honestly think it's what I can gather from most of the people that I've met throughout my lifetime. It's the fear of having to live within rules, so to speak. I know that can be worded many ways and put in many different ways, right? I mean, living under a set of rules.
Well, let me ask you this, because we have to look into the mind of God, at least to a degree. Now, if God is legitimate, would it be legitimate for God to set up a scenario where a major ingredient would be missing with respect to his creation believing in him? In other words, I'm asking, is it really necessary to see God in order to believe in God? I guess that's my question.
I think that we see God every day. When you see a sunrise, when you see a sunset, when you see, a child that's been, I think that is seeing God's creation every day. I don't think that we see him himself. I mean, I've got a great big secret that I've never told anybody, but I do believe we see him every day. And one day I'll tell you who I think he is. What I think it is that I see every day that is God. If you want to know the truth, I think God is the sun.
Well, let me say this.
I think he has something to do with the sun. I don't know what it is, but I just think he has something to do with the sun. I don't know what it is.
Well, God has a lot to do with the sun.
You know what I mean? I just think that there's something about the sun that, and I haven't really figured it out yet, but all my life I've always thought that there's something about the sun that has to do with God. I don't know what it is.
Right. Well, the sun is the source of life.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't have life without the sun, and of course God knew that in the planetary structure, as it were. But what I'm saying is, I don't deny that this life is not a test. I believe the Garden of Eden was a test. I believe that life outside the garden is a test. But I think it's a test that we can pass. Because what do we believe in if we don't believe in God that makes more sense than God? Okay, that's just a question. That's just a standing question. But I do think that God says, look, it's going to cost you a little bit to get the benefits that I have in store for you. I mean, I think the fact that God has given us a record, I think the fact that God has given us a mind to probe these issues and think them through. And you just said a very important thing, as you always do. But this one, if you read in Romans, and we read this last time, that the heavens declare the glory of God. God uses creation as exhibit A for God's existence. Creation itself is God's testimony to himself. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. I'm listening to every word you said.
So that's the thing. God is telling us, no, you can't see me. And I agree.
Well, it's just like if I were to tell you, Mr. Solution, come and walk with me, and we're going to get to Austin. I promise you, just stay with me. It's there. Debbie, Austin's not on the map. Mr. Solution, just believe me. It's there. Stay with me. Keep walking. Come on. No, I'm not. Mr. It's just like that. It's like you're just going to have to believe. Just believe me. I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, I do. Look, invisibility is an issue to faith, but it's not a total obstacle to faith, because we believe in a lot of things we can't see. In fact, most of what we believe, we accept it on faith. We can't study everything that we know. We accept it on a measure of faith. And so, I'm just saying, Job, when we studied the book of Job, that was one of the issues that Job had. Where are you? I can't find you in terms of your localizing yourself. And God did appear the first time through, and those guys were bloviating something extraordinary. And God appeared and made his appearance and corrected them. But I think we have ample evidence to conclude. We have more evidence for God than the Anunnaki.
Mr. Solution, is the sun a star?
Yes. The sun is at the center of our solar system based on gravitational effects that causes everything to revolve around it.
So stars are little suns?
Yes, stars are suns, yes.
Stars are suns.
Yes, it runs our solar system. I think they said.
Well, I know that. I learned that in the 3rd grade.
It's millions of times larger than our Earth, and it powers all the.
Has anybody ever seen a star? I mean, I know they have it in person, but has anybody ever got close to one on a telescope? I mean, is it what shape are they? Is it round? Is it?
Yeah, they say it's a big ball of gas. There's a lot they don't know about it, and its size. It's of immense size.
But how come when we look at stars, they look like they're stars? They've got little branches all blinking out, and they're white. They blink, and they're
those are atmospheric effects. You can actually go to some of the websites that we've talked about before and get a better picture from the Hubble telescope and others that have taken closer pictures of the sun. But yeah, the sun is it's very important. It's a nuclear reactor, is what it is, according to scientists.
Victor stares at the night sky almost nightly. He has a telescope.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yes.
Well, so do I. I like looking up at
He
the
has
stars.
a wonderful telescope. I bought him at the I always forget the name of that store. The store where you buy all the toys for the rich men. It's called the something store. Anyway, and I bought it for him, and he has it out there, and he just, Debbie, come here, look, and he'll zone in on a star, or he's fascinated with it.
Oh, it is fascinating. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I have a pair of binoculars that I can see the moon, magnified. I think they're 50 power. But, if you go on the internet, they have much better pictures because the atmosphere distorts everything that we see. The atmosphere is huge. It filters out and it serves a very important purpose, but it does distort images. So I would just encourage you to do that. But look here, hopefully we've addressed some of what the gentleman is saying. It's a very exciting and interesting subject. I mean, just talking about God and musing about the marvelous creation and our role in creation and to God, it's just unbelievable. But continuing here, we have Jacob leaving now. It says Jacob, where was that when he reached? Yes, we were in verse 10 here. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Now, let's ask this question. Is it just Jacob? Do we see that any other people are with Jacob? Because it was kind of dangerous to travel alone. Possibly there were some other people with him that aren't mentioned. But I just thought of that. It's just interesting. And he said here, do you have any comments on that? Deb?
No, I'm following along with you, sir. You're the teacher.
Okay, thank you. He stopped for the night because the sun had set. Okay, he was traveling during the day, and I guess the most one could get during a day's travel is about 20 miles on foot, assuming he was on foot. But it says, taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. That must have been a sort of rough night's sleep. But hopefully he had something to cushion it. It says in verse 12, he had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. And the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Now, this was a great privilege. We saw this in the New Testament, a similar scene. I believe it was Nathaniel who experienced this. But this is very important here to have the privilege of seeing, angels ascending and descending. And by the way, regarding the scripture in Hebrews, how God spoke to the fathers through the prophets and in diverse manners. This is what's going on right now. Now, the book has not been written. It's being written as we review right now. But God is speaking to the prophets and the fathers in these unique and diverse manners. Verse 13, it says, there above it stood the Lord. Now, the Lord stood obviously at the top of the stairway, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the people on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Now we have this beautiful revelation, and remember, God introduces it to each one that it's being passed on to. It was, he stated this to Abraham, he stated it to Isaac, and now he's repeating it to Jacob. This is very important. God only needs to say something once, but he's repeating himself here because of the importance to us and him of this particular promise. This is a promise that God is making. Verse 15, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. Now this is fabulous here. And this is security, by the way. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. And so, God can't swear by anyone greater than himself. But I think this is a great revelation of comfort when God appears to you and explains to you, I'm with you and I'm going to take care of you. So this is just fabulous here. Verse 16, it says, when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? And I agree with him. He says, this is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. So we see the importance that now Jacob is realizing and placing upon where God, see, anywhere God appears is that. And particularly based upon the promise that God had made that he would, give that land to Jacob and his descendants. And we are included in that too, because, let me see how it says, he says, yes, if you look in the latter part of verse 14, where it says, all people on earth, I like to know what's in it for me, and I'm sure a lot of people do. He says, all people on earth, all peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. So that includes, believers, those who trust in God for their daily and indeed their eternal security. And we don't make any bones about that, because everyone has to trust in something. So continuing on here, he says, verse 18, early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. So he anointed it. This is his way of recognizing God's presence. Verse 19, he called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Now this is very important, because the writer here is obviously a historian, and this person knows that area, and they're telling you what it used to be called. So, I mean, in doing analysis of a particular work, this is part of what we call the internal evidence test. There's also the external evidence test and the bibliographical test. But, you will see the internal evidence test manifested again and again. And this is one of the means of verifying the authenticity of a historical work. And all historical work are put through those three tests. So in verse 20 it says, then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's house, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. So Jacob agreed to, he had these stipulations, and he was just saying, this is what what I'll do if God will basically supply me with sustenance and protection. So that concludes chapter 28, which I think is a very tremendous chapter. It shows the transition and how things are being worked out. Jacob is returning to his mother's home and to his grandfather's home. That's where Abraham left from. And so there is a consistency. I think there is a connection. So he's going back there to get a wife and carry out God's promise. So I think this is a great chapter.
Okay, well, what do you think about people that say that God wrote the Bible? I mean, God obviously didn't have a ballpoint pen or a IBM Selectric typewriter. I mean, who do you think actually took pen to parchment and wrote the Bible?
Well, okay. Now,
Not the Bible.
I know you probably... It's
book.
Interesting how you pose that, first of all. Well, God is obviously using human beings who are committed to Him, just like God uses you to carry out certain purposes. It doesn't make it any less God. There's a word called providence, and it deals with God's ability to work out God's will through His created intelligences. And you would, now maybe not all the time, but you would definitely say that you carry out God's will, correct?
I try to.
Okay, no. But what I'm saying is sometimes you actually do,
Okay.
right?
I pray that His will be done on earth as it is in heaven, but I don't know. Well, what would you
Okay.
consider God's will? What do you
But
mean?
but that's, okay, this is a very important point. I would say, okay, sharing the word, you're doing this as you believe this is what God wants you to do, to share God's word through your radio program. Is that correct?
I've never really thought about it like that. To be perfectly honest.
Aha! Well, see, that's the thing. And God works in, I won't use the term mysterious necessarily, although a mystery is one that is revealed in New Testament terminology. But the thing is that we can and do carry out the will of God.
I see what you're saying, because I don't know
Yes.
why I do this. I thought I did it for, to be honest with you, I don't know. I do it because I enjoy learning. And I know people that have said that they have learned so much about the book of Genesis that they could take a test on it, that they never even knew. They said to me before, many times, Mr. Solution, in Skype chats, when I go into a group call, they'll say, Debbie, there was a time when if you would have told me 6 months ago, what's the book of Genesis? I would say, the first book in the Bible. And now they know all about Abraham and Sarah and all this. They go on and on. They know everything. And I'm going, wow.
Now think of this, and you can hone it to a fine edge. But, it says as iron sharpens iron, so does one person another. But that's exactly what's going on. Now, God, through providence, works out His will through people, even people who are bellicose toward God, even people who are inimical, people who are hostile toward God. And of course, you and I aren't hostile toward God, at least not intentionally. So God definitely uses His created intelligences to bring about the purpose that God has set forth. And it's perfectly okay for God to do that. It's just like working for a corporation. You work for a corporation, you carry out the interest and intentions of that corporation. And so it's the same thing here. The principle is the same. And so I would say that's why you do it. You want to be pleasing to God. And if you took time, which you may do now, and do inventory, you can see other ways that you may be pleasing to God. Am I still coming in okay? You guys have me paranoid.
No, you sound just fine. You sound just fine.
Okay, all right, great. But you see, that's something that I think, we can actually be and should be co-laborers with God. We can actually work with God. And you'll be rewarded for that someday.
Oh, that's certainly not why I do it. I don't think about that, but
But that's not the point. I'm talking about it from God's point of view. God will reward. Let me give you the scripture.
mm-hmm.
He who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. God is a rewarder. That's what God does. He rewards those who are faithful to him and assist him in carrying out his purposes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, good. I need all the help I can get then. No, I never thought about it like that, to be honest with you. Are you ready to go to chapter 29, sir?
Well, sure. Let me ask you this, because I'm not familiar with this particular setup. Do you take callers, or do you review? I've never learned how to get in your chat room, the chat room on Spreaker. Is it easy,
let me show you. Now that you're on Skype, I can waltz you right over there with this link coming up right now. You'll see it in our Skype chat, and it is coming up right here. If you go to that link on your computer, and it won't take you off of anything else that you're doing.
Okay, well, you know what? Can you still hear me?
Uh-huh.
I don't want to change anything right now.
I knew you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't.
My system is kind of weird. I don't want to change anything, but I will see it after we finish. Sure, we may proceed to 29.
All right, here we go. And here we go. I was following along with this person in the chat room he said to me that I understand. And I don't even say who I'm reading in the chat room. Oy vey. Let's go to chapter 29, everybody, and see what's going to happen then. This is called segue bullshit. Jacob arrives in Padan Aram. Here we go. Something I bet you is going to happen. Something was always happening with Jacob. I like Jacob.
Genesis 29. Then Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of the eastern peoples. There he saw a well in the open country, with 3 flocks of sheep lying near it, because the flocks were watered from that well. The stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone away from the well's mouth and water the sheep. Then they would return the stone to its place over the mouth of the well. Jacob asked the shepherds, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We're from Haran," they replied. He said to them, "Do you know Laban, Nahor's grandson?" "Yes, we know him," they answered. Then Jacob asked them, "Is he well?" "Yes, he is," they said. "And here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." "Look," he said, "the sun is still high. It is not time for the flocks to be gathered. Water the sheep and take them back to pasture." "We can't," they replied, "until all the flocks are gathered and the stone has been rolled away from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep." While he was still talking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherd. When Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of his uncle Laban, and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep aloud. He had told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and a son of Rebekah. So she ran and told her father. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his home. And there Jacob told him all these things. Then Laban said to him, "You are my own flesh and blood." After Jacob had stayed with him for a whole month, Laban said to him, "Just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, "I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "It's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me." So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, my time is completed, and I want to make love to her. So Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a feast. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob made love to her. And Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me?" Laban replied, "It is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this daughter's bridal week, then we will give you the younger one also in return for another 7 years of work." And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah. And he worked for Laban another 7 years. When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, "It is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now." She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, "Because the Lord heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too." So she named him Simeon. Again she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, "Now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, "This time I will praise the Lord." So she named him Judah. Then she stopped having children.
And that's it?
Well,
I was all interested in the story. Then she stopped having children. That's it?
yeah, but it's actually on now. We see that.
Well, let's keep going. But go ahead. No.
Oh, well, actually, I wanted to stop in the midst of it, although I didn't say. But you saw the trick where Jacob had worked for. Now, remember, a lot of what Jacob did is coming back to bite him squarely in the buttocks. He was a supplanter, but he's with the guy who's on his level. Laban is a scoundrel too, by the way, and we'll see that even more as we go on here. But you see how Jacob, the wife that Jacob had worked for, which was Rachel, it was switched up on him. He switched Leah. He said, well, our custom is not to give the younger before the older. And so what Laban was having happen is for Jacob to work for him and to improve, the conditions there. He could tell that God was with him. But you see, the great deception was the woman was switched on the wedding night. Jacob thought he was getting Rachel, but he was getting Leah. And we also see how Leah felt unloved. She bore 3 sons, and it was considered very important for a woman to be fertile, to bear children, and particularly a son. And she bore, you notice where she says here, and conceived and gave birth to a son. Now, in verse 34, it says, again she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, "Now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." Right? And so that son's name was Levi. But we see a great deal of, jealousy, envy. It's just a mess. And it's amazing that God can do anything with us, because we see a real mess going on here. Inter-family struggle and that sort of thing. So, but just looking at that, I'm going to get back here, of course, in verse 29. Debbie, I hear a little bit of background. I don't know if that's me or you.
No, I'm on mute. I have some hissing noise coming from you, but all systems are go. All levels look fine.
Okay, great. And it says here, Jacob arrives in Padan Aram. Now, this is, of course, the homeland of his fathers, Abraham. And it says, then Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of eastern peoples. By the way, the Bible is an Eastern book. A lot of times we don't understand that, or we certainly don't promote that, but it is a book that's out of the East. So it says here, there he saw a well in the open country with flocks of sheep lying near it. And we see Jacob taking charge here. The people who owned it, or the workers there, they weren't going to water the sheep. And we see Jacob, taking charge, and he waters the flock. For example, where it says here, first he got to know who these people were, and he knew that they were his mother's people, where his mother came from. And you notice in verse 8, Jacob asked the question, why can't they reply until, wait a minute. Yes, in verse 7, he said, look, he said, the sun is still high. Is it not time for the flocks to be gathered? Water the sheep and take them back to the pastures. And then it says, we can't, they replied, until all the flocks are gathered and the stone has been rolled away from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep. And of course, we see that when Rachel came, it points out that she was a shepherdess. And it says in verse 10, when Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of his uncle Laban, and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled away the stone from the mouth of the water and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep aloud. He had told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and a son of Rebekah. So she ran and told, her father, Laban. And of course, we have this family meeting over great distances. Jacob is there, so obviously that's Laban's our nephew, and so obviously they're glad to see him and that sort of thing. So that's great. And it says in verse 13, as soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his home. And there Jacob told him all these things. So there was a lot of catch up. Jacob told him about everything that had happened with, of course, Rebekah and Isaac, and just caught him up on the family news. And it says, then Laban said to him, you are my own flesh and blood. So that's very important. You notice here in verse, continuing with verse 14, they split it up. It says, Jacob marries Leah and Rachel. After Jacob had stayed with him for a whole month, Laban said to him, this is verse 15, just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. So that's a fair thing. He's just telling Jacob, hey, what should I pay you? You shouldn't work for me, without compensation. And verse 16, now Laban had two daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Verse 17, Leah had weak eyes. Now this is some sort of flaw. I've heard people call them by different names. But maybe it wasn't that attractive. There was something special about Leah's eyes. And it says, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful.
A lovely figure? Does it say that?
Yes, in verse 17.
Well, I've always been told I have big, wide-set eyes, and that supposedly, now this is just what I've been told, that for everybody else out there that has this, it's supposed to be a sign of intelligence and pretty to have big, wide-set eyes. I have huge eyes. I hate my eyes. They're so big, sometimes they look stupid. It's like, duh.
Kind of almond-shaped eyes? That's what I kind of picture Leah as. I haven't done a lot of research.
And I think that what they're talking about, maybe the other girl maybe had beady eyes. You know, somebody with little beady eyes or little bitty teeny weeny. I don't know. That sounds horrible.
And this may be cultural too. And remember, we talk about there's overlap. One can find overlap in every culture. I mean, God does a phenomenal job with approximately 100 square inches of space in the facial area. But I mean, there's a great deal of overlap. I would be willing to say there are twins in every group. I mean, you know, barring the skin color, and sometimes they look the same regardless as to what ethnicity they're in. But at any rate, she has some interesting eyes. And it says, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Verse 18, Jacob was in love with Rachel. He liked her apparently from the first time he saw her. It was kind of love at first sight. And said, I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel. And of course...
and back then that was a big deal because everybody did their own gig. Everybody had their own sheep, their own land, nobody worked at the farm. No, excuse me. Nobody worked at the factory. Nobody worked at the offices. Everybody had a farm or a plot of land, and you just, you need help. You need help for, somebody to go over there and help you put all these stones over on that side of the fence, or whatever. And that was a big deal to have a big strapping young man say, hey, I'll work for you for 7 years, whatever, for free.
Absolutely. Life was labor intensive because, they were an agrarian society. Everything, they grew it, farm, agriculture, that sort of thing. And, so that's what you have here. And, of course, many people became wealthy. We'll see Boaz was wealthy. I think, obviously, Laban was fairly wealthy. And we're going to see that Jacob will become wealthy. Of course, Abraham was wealthy. Isaac was wealthy. At one point, it pointed out that Isaac had the Midas touch, as we would call it today. They say his everything he did increased 100-fold. 100-fold. Normally, we're lucky if we get, 60% return. That's a pretty good return. But, Isaac got 100-fold return. So we just see what's happening here, what their occupations are. And then it says here, now Laban, the way he said this is kind of interesting, a little bit dismissive possibly. In verse 19, Laban said, it's better that I give her to you. Oh, by the way, before I want to interrupt myself, Rachel was in agreement with this. Okay, the women, they did seek the consent of the women. It wasn't just a total forced thing, because if you recall back when Eliezer went to get a wife for Isaac, namely Rebekah, whose son Jacob is, she was asked if she would go back with the men. Do you recall that, Debbie? Because I tried to point it out.
Yes, but I want you to know I never trusted Rebekah. I have no idea why. No, I'm not trying to make you laugh. There was just something about, I don't know what it was. I just never trusted her from the beginning.
Well, I think Rebekah was a good woman. And in fact, I think you gave an explanation. Now, I never saw this where she was trying to help God. She, by her little plot, and I even said to you, she screwed it up. She shouldn't have helped God, but tried to help out God. But you recall when you said that,
Yeah, I'm thinking. I keep myself on mute. I'm sitting here trying to think of what you were talking about. I think.
Well, you brought that up. I wasn't immediately cognizant of her intentions. I knew it was treacherous. It may mitigate it slightly. She thought she was helping God, but you and I discussed it, and what we said is she didn't have to help God out.
Oh,
God
when
doesn't. When
she was watering the horses, right?
Well, no. When Rebekah was,
the camels. I'm sorry, not the horses.
Yeah. Right. She crafted the plot. I'm further along now. She crafted the plot for Jacob to get the inheritance over Esau.
Oh,
See,
that's
Esau
right.
was,
Oh, no, you're right. Oh, you're
Yes.
completely right. Yeah, but I didn't like her before that for some reason.
well, but she had shown herself very worthy and noble prior to that. I had high praise for Rebecca. I don't totally discount her now, but the thing is, you pointed out, and I didn't independently verify this, but she thought she was helping God bring about God's will. But, you know, let me just say this, and I think this deserves a point of clarification. I said earlier that we can do some things that God has already said we can do to actually assist God in God's purpose. But if God specifically says, I'm going to do something, and he makes it very specific, then of course God has to do that. And there are things that we can help God with, and there are things that we can't. And it's very important to know the difference. And we'll talk about a few of those as we go along. But one of the things that we can certainly do is talk about God's word. It is honoring God to talk about God. A lot of people never even mention God. I've asked people, do you think about God? They go, no. And I thought, how can that be? But the point is that having a conversation about God is honoring God, because you're overcoming that burden of God's invisibility. And I think God allows that for the purpose of strengthening our faith. You know, who needs to believe in a God, as it were, that just appears? And how would God appear? God even says, if he appeared before us, it would kill us. He says, no man can see my face and live. That was one of the things that Moses asked. He said, I would like to see you. And God says,
See, that right there, that means he's the Son. No man has ever seen my face and lived. No, I'm joking, of course.
Yeah,
sort of. You know what I mean. Shut up. Shut up. Oh, never mind.
It's so funny. But no, yes, but God tells Moses specifically, if you see me, you're toast. You can't see me. And so I think we have to take that into consideration too. But he told Moses, he says, what I'll do is I'll put you in the cleft of a rock. And then I'll cover you with my hands. I'll cover you. And then I'll pass by and you can see my afterglow. So God is a pretty serious deal, because, you know, when you're a sinner, if you stand before God, there's going to be trouble, because you can't stand in God's presence unless God allows it. And, okay, but anyway, I think that's very important to understand. Or
no,
at least
I'm reading your mind, and when you read that about the afterglow and pass by, you thought, wait a minute, he does sound like the Son.
Well, no, actually, let me say this. You know, and one pastor said this. He said it was easy for God to create the universe and earth and prepare the earth for human habitation. But what really cost God something was to save man. And I was thinking of this issue just slightly, and then we'll continue. A lot of people say the God of the Old Testament is brutal, and the God of the New Testament is filled with love and all this kind of stuff. And that's not exactly true. Both are filled with love. You can see love in the Old Testament in terms of God's provision. He even told the people, don't take the mother bird along with the eggs. You know, God even protected nature. So he gave the Israelites a great lesson on ecology and everything else, family and this sort of thing. But the point is, the God in the New Testament, if we want to talk about brutality, is far more brutal than the God of the Old Testament. Why do I say that? Glad you asked. Because the God in the New Testament killed God. He punished, remember it says, it pleased the Lord to bruise him. So when Jesus is suspended between heaven and earth on that cross, God turned his back on Jesus, which he had never done throughout all eternity, because Jesus was voluntarily taking on the sins of the world. Now that's the message. A lot of people poo-poo that. But when I thought it through, that was a brilliant plan. No one would have ever thought of a God, of a king, dying that way. That was a very ignoble death, to die on the cross like that, on a Roman cross. But my point is that when Christ emptied himself of the prerogatives of God, and you can find that in Philippians, I believe it's chapter 2, he emptied himself. He divested himself of his prerogatives as God, not his nature. His nature as God was still there, because that's what he was going to use to save humanity. Because remember, God desired death, and only God can die and come back again. We can't. We can only die once. So God poured out all of his wrath on the one whom he loved and had loved for all of eternity. So that is far more brutal in the New Testament, with Jesus stranded on that cross and being abandoned by God. That's why he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? I mean, Jesus could take the cross. That wasn't the issue. The issue is God's abandonment of him, at least in my humble perspective. But I just wanted to point, that's why salvation is so important, is that this is God's only means of salvation. That's why it says there's no other name under heaven whereby we must be saved. That's an imperative. And so I would say the God of the New Testament, who was pleased to crucify an innocent man. Jesus was innocent. And that's far more brutal, but for a purpose, So I don't know. How did that come across, Debbie?
It sounded great. Are you ready to take a quick break?
Okay.
Y'all want to take a break? You want to take a little...
Yeah, a break is fine. Intermission is fine.
An interlude, an intermission, yes. So the lights will come up in the Coliseum here. We will be taking a short break and, of course, listening to something, and I've chose something kind of cute. So we'll be right back after about maybe a 4 or 5 minute break. Everybody could do what you want to do and come right back. We'll be right back with Mr. Solution and Debbie on the study of the Book of Genesis. You're tuned to BBC One. I'm joking.
So the phone rings. Back when I answered the telephone, those days are over. I said, hello, Duck Commander. Guy said, I need to order a duck call. Okay, what do you need? In the process of the guy ordering the duck call, he used God's name in vain about 5 times, just while ordering a duck call. So after about the 5th time, because I loved him, look, I know I'm in California, but I love every last one of you. Now remember something. My love for you is not contingent on how you feel about me. If you say, I don't like you, I hate you, I can't stand the sight of you, I don't mind. I love you anyway. Don't forget that. So the guy, about the 5th time he curses God, GD this, GD that, I said, let me ask you something. Now, I have his name, address, phone number. I said, let me ask you something. Why would you keep using God's name to curse this and that and the other? Why would you do that? I said, he's the only one who can save you from death. Why invoke his name like that? I said, you still there? He said, yeah, Hoss, I'm still here. You got my duck call coming? I said, I got it coming. And he went, "Bong." About 10 minutes goes by, the phone rings again. Hello, Duck Commander. The guy said, hey, it's me again. I said, the question is still on the table. Why would you do that? Curse and invoke the creator of the cosmos like that. I said, he can save you from death. You are going to die of something one day, right? He said, yeah, I'm going to die. He said, Mr. Robertson, I've never thought about that. I said, well, don't you think you ought to? I mean, give me a break. I said, you know what you ought to do? He said, what's that? And I looked down at his address. I said, let's see, you be out of Alabama. I said, what you ought to do is just load up and drive over here. I'll tell you a story about the one that you keep using his name to curse people and things. And I said, you may change your mind about it. Just drive over and let's sit down and talk it over. He said, I might do that. I said, you ought to. Bah. 1 week goes by. Knock on the door. I said, come in. This dude steps in, got another guy with him. He said, you know who I am? I said, I don't think I've ever met you. He said, I'm that guy that was using God's name to curse anything and everybody. I said, so you did come. He said, I got to know. I said, come on in here. I told those two fellas what I'm fixing to tell you folks. You know what they did, California? They cried. Grown men, and the tears falling on my living room floor. I said, you boys want to go down on the river like they did in the book of Acts? They said, yes, sir. I took them down there and baptized them. I said, you boys want some dry clothes? I'll throw them in the dryer. We'll dry them for you. They said, we good to go. I said, check you later. They tore off up the road. 17 years went by. And Miss Kay said, Phil, you have a speech to give over in Alabama. I had long forgotten those guys. We got over there, and the preacher said, you want to eat a little bite before you speak? And I said, I usually don't eat these things. He said, well, I got these filet mignons back there. I said, well, good grief, why didn't you tell me that? Yeah, I'll eat. I don't pass up no filet mignon. So I'm eating a steak with the preacher, and some guy comes up there and he said, Robinson, do you remember the guy that was cursing and carrying on the telephone, and you called him on it? And he drove over there and was converted to Jesus. I said, I remember that dude. I said, you know, he was from Alabama. He said, what are you talking about? He's one of the leaders of this church now. He wants to talk to you. Here's a news flash, California. Just one phone call. Just a phone call. You say, why did you quiz him about that? Because I loved him. And I love you. You don't have to tell me about your sins. I already know about them. I have plenty myself. I have my past. You have yours. The ones of you who have not given your life to Jesus, you're still there. I've been there. Drugs, sexual immorality, alcohol, cursing. I sounded like that guy on the telephone at one point in my life. Until I learned the error of my ways. Satan breaks us, California. He breaks us down.
And that's a little bit of an audio break for 6 minutes and 54 seconds we went there. And that's the Duck Commander, Phil Robertson, talking to some people in, let me see where he's at. He was in Saddleback Church somewhere. I don't know where, so you'll just have to figure that one out. I don't know. So there you go. I heard that the other day. That was actually forwarded to me on Skype by somebody, and I thought it was interesting. I've never really watched the show that much. They kind of all look like ZZ Top. They have really long, straggly beards, and I can't tell one from the other, but I think this is the oldest guy that got blasted in the newspaper for saying that gays weren't, right or something like that. And that's who we were listening to, is the Duck Commander Phil Robinson. So there you go. Welcome back to everybody to our study here of Genesis. We're in the book, we're in the chapter 29 at the present, studying some interesting things about some women in the Bible and things that they did and things that were carrying on. And so I hope my partner here, Mr. Solution, is back with me. Are you back, Mr. Solution?
Yes.
Were you eating grapes and drinking beautiful red wine? Eating cheese?
I've moved on to ice cider. It's supposed to be healthier than wine, actually.
You're not having any Dickens cider, are you? Sorry, that came out wrong. Have you had a Dickens cider today, Mr. Solution? Have you? I'm joking.
I heard you talking about that. So
That's
anyway,
funny.
we'll talk about that on another
Absolutely. So are we ready to go? Were we through with 29? Or
No,
we're not.
actually,
We're not. Okay. I didn't think we were.
We were about halfway. Actually, verse 19. Laban said, "It's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me." So this seems a little bit, I don't know, dismissive, but maybe the language is, you understand what I'm saying when he says here, well, it's better I give her to you than someone else.
True.
I think he has more interest in that, possibly interest than the language captures there. Or at least I think that's what the context says here. Because I think he loved his daughters and he obviously wanted them to be happy. And
I think he was hoping that Jacob would marry either Leah or Rachel, right?
Well, no, he was going to. Let me say this: Laban is more crafty than Jacob, much more, because Laban is older and he knows Jacob intricately. And so what he's going to do is he's going to switch the wives. Now this is a type of betrayal, and he could have explained this to Jacob up front. But if you recall that question you asked, I was answering that question really based upon my misconception of this, because it was 14 years. He did 17 years for Leah. Well, he thought it was Rachel. He did 7 years for Rachel. That is, he worked for Laban for 7 years. And then he was going to work another 7. But that was to get Rachel. That wasn't the first wife. And now we can even talk about that at some point. Should they have been multiplying wives? Because, the way God set it up initially, it was only one wife. And notice Abraham had one wife at a time. He, of course, married after Sarah died. And, of course, Isaac only had one wife. And let me just say this, and I think this can be buttressed by the evidence, is that the influence on Jacob in the land of Canaan was caused him to do this, to take multiple wives, because that it shouldn't have been like that. It should have just been one wife. Adam had one wife, like I say. Abraham had one. Jacob had one wife, and of course Noah had one wife. So we definitely have a historical backdrop of the one man, one woman, as opposed to polygamy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So at any rate, continuing on here, it says here in verse 20, so Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel. but they seem like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Now, I think this is beautiful. I know it talks about this in Ecclesiastes, how God distracts us with certain things that we're occupied. Imagine working 7 years, and it says it seemed like only a few days to him. And wouldn't it be nice to get that mindset in things we have to do, to make it go easily?
Mm-hmm.
So
a drop in the bucket. A drop in the bucket. And I'm following along with my Genesis for Dummies with you. So I'm reading right along with you.
Okay, that's what Vic bought you, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, great. Verse 21, it says, Then Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife. My time is completed, and I want to make love to her. And of course, it says here, so Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a feast. So we see there was a festive time. It says, but when evening came, he, that is Laban, took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob. And Jacob made love to her. Now you say, well, why didn't he notice? Well, because it was a feast, and they were...
And he was drunk.
They had been imbibing, yes, and he did, and probably her face was covered with a veil.
And it was dark. Mm-hmm.
Right, and it was... and it was dark. So Jacob really didn't know about this plot that Laban had. And of course, notice continuing on here, it says, and Jacob made love to her, verse 24, and Laban gave his servant Zipporah to his daughter as her servant. So it says, verse 25, when morning came, there was Leah. You see that exclamation point?
Well, let me stop you right there and tell everybody that one thing that fathers that had daughters wanted to do was marry them off. Okay? Leah was getting older and hadn't been married off yet. And Rebecca was very, I'm getting my name's mixed up. What is the other one? Is it Rebecca? Rachel was very pretty and was going to be very easy to marry off. Leah was not so pretty. And as we learned earlier, Mr. Solution pointed out. So I think he just found a buyer, so to speak, and tricked him into, kind of like selling somebody a lemon car that you've had behind the house for a long time. It runs great, and he tricked him. So this is
Debbie, I hate to describe Leah in those terms, but go ahead.
Well, I'm not saying that she's ugly, but she just hadn't been married off yet. I mean, I'm quite sure, the Bible very gently put that she was, what did he say? What was it? I mean, the Bible certainly didn't give her a lot of praise, so I'm thinking
Well, she was the older, and she had distinctive eyes. We don't know if that was ugly. I'll do a little research and try to find out exactly.
But that's one thing I wanted to point out is men wanted to marry their girls off and get them out,
Right. That's correct. And I think the same is true of most fathers today. By the way, there's a commercial I was going to bring to your attention. It's a Subaru commercial where the father is requiring the daughter to change a tire. And I think that is just so pivotal in this egalitarian environment. I just think that's great. I hope he teaches her to pay her own way too. But he's teaching her to change her tire on a Subaru. Have you seen that?
I think I've heard about it. I have not seen it.
You'll probably notice it if you see it.
I just wrote it down. I just made a note of it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I thought that was a great commercial. But at any rate, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Oh, no, that's all.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So Leah was the elder. And, of course, continuing on here, it says, when morning came, there was Leah. And so Jacob said to Laban, what is this you have done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I?
Oops.
Why have you deceived me? Now notice the deceiver is sensitive to being deceived. Remember what he did to his brother. Lied, plotted with his mother.
Oh, yeah, we're seeing what comes around goes around.
Oh, yeah. And he goes, why have you deceived me? This sanctimonious self-righteousness. But at any rate, that's the way we are. Verse 26, Laban replied, It is not our custom.
No, wait a minute. We need to stop and talk about this. We need to get this in everybody's heads. Now, let's look at this, people. What did Jacob do? Jacob very horribly deceived his father. Am I right?
Right, you're right. His father Isaac.
What he sowed, he's reaping.
That's right.
No, what he's reaping, he's sowing. No, what he sowed, he's reaping. He was very well. I would say, well, Mr. Deceiver, I mean, why is this such a shock to you? I thought this is the way you played ball. I thought this was the way you ran your railroad. I mean,
I don't think Laban was aware.
You know, she was a homely little girl that he was like, we've got a buyer on our hands. Put the veil on the fat one. No, I'm joking.
But let me say this, Deb. I think that Jacob probably left out what he had done to his father. He probably didn't tell Laban that, but he didn't have to. It wasn't necessary.
Well, we know it. You and I know is what I'm saying, though.
Right. We know. Exactly. We know. And God knew.
Well, yeah. That's the whole point.
Right.
So carry on, please.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. It says here, now Laban is very cool, calm, and collective, and he replied, "It is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one." And then he says here, you notice he always has a plan. He's a rascal too, by the way.
Marsha.
Right. He says here in verse 27, "Finish this daughter's bridal week. Then we will give you the younger one also in return for another 7 years of work." Now, Laban loved his daughters, but he loved that work. That's true now, and we're going to see it more later because it's going to be talked about. Verse 28, it says, "And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife." So now Jacob has 2 wives. And guess how this is going to turn out? So in verse 29, Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Verse 30, Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love for Rachel than his love for Leah. And you're married to both of them, and
Mr. Solution, I'm losing you.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not you. It's not you. I'm losing the connection. It's giving me some really
That may have been me. That may have been partially my fault.
I'm getting some snap, crackle, and pop over there. Pop, 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 pop. I don't know what something. It sounds like the wire's jiggling on something, but I don't know. It sounds like it's me, but I don't know.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Oh, I can hear you, but you're very, very far away. It sounds like what happened last night, but we'll muddle through it. I just don't want, if I lose you completely, of course I'll ring you back in, but I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, well, it's not me now. It is the system.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me partially?
Yeah, I hear you fine. You're just a little faint, but go right ahead.
Okay, great. I'll speak up. What we're saying here, I'll just repeat. Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah. And he worked for Laban another 7 years. So I was just saying, imagine there was dissension in the family where there was just one woman as a wife. And you'll see that the problems are multiplied here with these 2 wives, particularly when a woman knows that the husband loves the other wife more than her. So Leah knows that she wasn't Jacob's first choice. And I'm sure that was very painful for her to have to live with. Verse 31, it says, "When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless." 32, Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, "It is because the Lord has seen my misery." Now notice how she describes it, not me. That she was miserable. "Surely my husband will love me now." So she's vying for her husband's love, and she's the wife. Can there be a greater paradox or, I don't know, contradiction than that?
Very sad.
For her husband's love, and she's the wife. And go ahead, what, Debbie?
Very sad.
Yeah, that's very sad. And verse 33, she conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, because the Lord heard that I am not loved. Now notice she goes, misery, not love. He gave me this one too. So she named him Simeon. Verse 34, again she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she says, now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi. So we see here that
what's going on in today's world went on back in the biblical days, where the women, right?
Absolutely. We see here a wife is just trying to do the best she can to get the love that she deserves from her husband, and she's in competition. So we see here they've created a really bad situation. So we have misery, not loved. I'm trying to be loved, by my husband. And this was Leah's situation. In verse 35, she conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she says, this time I will praise the Lord. So she named him Judah. Then she stopped having children. So we see, the problems in the family, and they were multitudinous within Abraham's family, in his extended family. But God is still using them to bless the entire, human race. And so this just shows how God can work through us in spite of who we are. And I'm sure God was really put to the test working with this particular family. So that concludes chapter, 29? Yes.
Chapter 29. Knock on wood. Should we go on to 30? If we do, I'm going to feel so good, like we did so much homework tonight. We did good.
Well, let me ask you, do we, I know we may not have...
Sir? Hello? Mr. Solution?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You want to field a question or two regarding this or a related topic?
Let me take a look and see. Does anybody want to call in and talk? The lines are open, boys. Does anybody want to call in? Let me see if anything's asking a question. Let's see in the chat room. Here we go. I'm having trouble scrolling up. It's giving me my little wait a minute sign. They're just having some chats about RD's in the chat room. RD's pretty cool, and he's talking with another guy in there. Things going to come out 10 years from ago. History, our Bible. They're following along. There's a lot of evidence for those who wrote the Bible and when the traditions and the cultures they borrowed from and to form the basis. I am an atheist, but I enjoy the Bible as a book. I enjoy more like ancient history and cultures, including lately the Israel and Judaic traditions. Just they're chatting along with us. Just chatting along, listening. If anybody's out there listening that wants to call in and talk to, thank you, Josh. I get a report from Josh. Everything is A-okay. We're at DEFCON 1. Does anybody want to call in and have a chat with myself or Mr. Solution on this wonderful Sunday night, my birthday?
Debbie, I would say that atheists, anyone who claims to be an atheist, first of all, I think many people who take that particular position have not thought it through very well, because what they're saying is they have searched all bodies of knowledge and God does not exist there. That's exactly what they're saying. And I noticed that my BTR son would point out that he arrived at atheism on an intellectual basis. Now, I knew I laughed at that because that's impossible. But nevertheless, if you think of the best atheists, how much of the world's knowledge does an atheist possess? Now, you talk about narcissism on steroids to say that you would literally have to be God to say that God doesn't exist, virtually. But the way that things exist, the fact that we exist, the order that we have, if you think about the creation of man and woman, how the hell could natural processes based on an accident have created a fertile man and woman that could reproduce? That doesn't even make any sense. That doesn't make sense.
We have a question in the chat room, I think. We have a question in the chat room that I'm waiting on. Somebody says, yes, I have a question. Yes, go ahead. What is your question? Rozzy Roz. Yeah, Rozzy Roz. Anyway, we're waiting. What if you believe in a creator but not call it God? Would that be atheism? That's my question for Mr. Solution. This is from RD. What if you believe in a creator but you don't call it God? Is that atheism?
No. Look, theism, that's just a word in the Greek. Theos means God in Greek. And, God is not... I mean, the Greek language, although it's a powerful language, God can be called by different names, and God has many different names. But if you use the term creator, that name itself sets the creator apart from the creation. And so I would say, no, that would not constitute atheism. Atheism is saying that we are the result of total naturalistic forces. And I'm just saying to you, naturalistic forces have no reason to create intelligent life. There would be no purpose, if you follow what I'm saying. To create a system as organized as we have, you just couldn't get that out of naturalistic...
well, and you know what else? I've also heard, sir, that every human has only... Hold on, we have another question. Every human has only given birth to humans, recreated humans. Every dog has only recreated a dog. Okay. Solution says it doesn't make any sense to me, so how could it possibly happen? Well,
no. I'm not just saying it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm saying it doesn't make any sense based on the process. Because why would non-intention create intention? Why would non-purposefulness create purposefulness? Why would non-consciousness or unconsciousness create consciousness?
That's a good point. You've got to give him that. You've got to. That's a good argument.
There's just no basis. There's no rational basis for that. How could you get morality out of complete immoral forces?
How could you get order out of chaos?
Unconscious, non-moral, you would at least have to use the term amoral or no moral. I mean, it just wouldn't make sense. That's nonsense.
I need to check. I checked on Skype because I thought somebody was trying to get us. Okay.
Is that the 444 number that they can call in on?
Oh, you can also call in on 214. If you're a contact of mine, you can call in. Well, no, I've got it set for anybody. 214-444-5488.
So anyone can call now.
Why do you say that God did it? You don't know that, nor do I. Why? What makes you, Mr. Solution, believe that there is a God? You personally, not the books that you've read or anything that you've heard. What makes you believe that there's a God? They're asking.
Well, let me say this, because see, sometimes people can undercut their ability to understand, or even other people to express saneness. Human beings are human beings, basically as a result of socialization. In other words, I mean, we would have the DNA as humans, but we wouldn't have any of the other attributes of humans outside of being socialized. So one's education and one's experience, all of that makes the person. Okay, that's why we are unique. But the reason I would subscribe to God is because you've got to have a cause. Science tells us without emphatically that cause and effect are the workings, are the process by which things occur. Cause and effect. Also, the law of inertia. Things tend to remain the way they are unless they are intervened, unless there's intervention by a greater force. And so those are some of the logical reasons, scientific reasons. Those are scientific positions. The second law of thermodynamics, which deals with the decay law, basically. It's things move from a state of order to disorder. That is the most recognized law of science, the law of decay. And that deals with the fact that things started out a certain way. A baby.
Okay, hold on. You're getting ahead of them. They say if cause and effect is the hang on. If cause and effect, then what caused God? If everything.
Aha! Now see, that's where they have to go and study the word aseity. When we understand the words that transmit reality, aseity says God does not have to have a cause. That's where we get into
the buck stops here.
Wait a minute. Let me just finish this thought. This is where we get into self-existence, which is perfectly logical and scientific, versus self-creation. By definition, God does not have a cause. God is the cause. You've heard the old adage, the buck stops here. That's what it means to be God. Go ahead.
No, I just said, that's exactly what I said. I said the buck stops here is what you're saying. Aseity is defined as, it is from the Latin word.
Oh, go ahead.
It's from the Latin word a, which means from, and c, which means self, and plus means is the it. So it's from self, refers to the property by which a being exists in and of itself, from itself, or exist as so and such of and from itself. The word is often used. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. What it means in essence is self-existence.
Well, it says the word is often used to refer to Christian belief that God contains within himself the cause of himself, is the first cause, or rather is uncaused.
Precisely. The uncaused cause.
That's exactly what they just said in the chat room, the uncaused cause. So he's saying, is God the only thing that gets the exemption of your rule?
What does that mean?
God doesn't have to have a hall pass. Is there anything else? I guess what they're asking, is there anything or anybody else that has that doesn't have? I guess not. I guess.
Well, no. By definition, God would be okay. You have the Creator and the creation. So by definition, God is separate from creation. Self-creation is a logical impossibility because a thing would have to exist before it was, or it would have to exist and not exist at the same time. And that's nonsense.
Okay. That makes sense if you consider all, including humans, part of God.
Well, humans are a creation of God. Just like a carpenter creates a structure, it's not part of the carpenter. The carpenter is separate from the creation or his creation. So God is separate from his creation. He can communicate with his creation. He can interact with his creation.
Do you think this is the only universe that God created?
Well, there again, by definition, universe means all. So yes, universe would mean all that there is.
Do you think there's another carbon-based creation on some other planet or whatever, some other thing that he did, or are we all he did? And what happens when we're over? Is he done? Does he go into retirement or what?
Well, according to science, there's no evidence of life anywhere else in the universe other than Earth. And a lot of scientists have come to the conclusion, based upon the research, is that life is unique in the universe to the Earth.
Life in and of itself is unique unto the earth, right?
In the universe, unto the Earth.
Well, it's like I said, John Henley said, they're not coming, they never were. And
they're not on their way.
if a carpenter does not create the chair out of nothing, he assembles it from previous existing materials. And then R.D. says, I'm not convinced you have to be completely separate from the Creator as created. Those two statements. The first one was, again, the carpenter does not create the chair out of nothing. He assembles it from pieces of wood. Can you address that?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So man not being an ultimate creator, or what you call a secondary creator, because man is created in the image of God. Man is a synthesizer. So man does fashion things out of pre-existing material. But God, being the supreme being, can speak things and can speak things into existence. Only God has that particular ability.
And is this where the bottom line is, you either believe it or you don't?
Well, we can research it. We have all of our lives to research it. That's one of the mandates of human beings, is to be on a quest to learn, to discover, to uncover, to analyze, and to draw conclusions based upon those analyses.
Well, let me ask you a very personal question. If somebody has been acting like a heathen all their life, and they realize they just got hit by a bus, and the doctor looks down and goes, well, I'm glad you gained consciousness, but buddy, you got about 10 minutes to live. Do you think God's going to listen to somebody at that point say, even if they don't even know if they mean it or not, God, I was wrong, I'm scared to death, now I believe you?
God will save any human being who calls upon the name of his Son. That is the criteria. This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Hear ye him. That's the mandate to human beings.
But what if they're just saying that because they're scared, and all of a sudden they're thinking, humana, maybe I'm going to go to the place where everybody's burning all the time and it's dark and it's scary.
Good enough. That's why we all do it.
Have you ever been to a haunted house? I mean, I think this makes a haunted house look like a choir boy here. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
But see, what we're doing is we're not understanding it from God's standpoint. God's standpoint is that the whole human race is lost.
Lester says he listened to the thief on the cross.
That's just what I'm saying. God will save anyone who calls upon the name of his Son. Because, see, God's standard is, if you commit one sin, you deserve hell. Period. And so God has made a very efficacious way out of punishment.
No, the worst sin, they're saying, I'm trying to keep up with them while you're talking. They say the worst sin is unbelief. That's not true. Rape, murder, and anything else can be forgiven, they say. No, that's not true. The worst sin, as far as the unforgivable sin, as far as I know it to be, and you can correct me anytime, is the outright, bold-faced denial of the Holy Spirit. Is that right, sir?
Well, the unforgivable sin is to die in unbelief, die rejecting God's only means of salvation. And so the Holy Spirit was the one, he's called the Parakletos, the one that has come to assist those who believe and those who desire to believe. The Holy Spirit is like Jesus. That's God also, has the same nature, has the God nature. There are three. It's called for convenience or identity, the Trinity. But what it refers to is that there are three beings that have the nature God: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And remember, Jesus said just prior to his departure, I believe it's in John 14, I'll be with you. Yes. I'm going to send one with the same nature as I. and He will guide you into all
I'll be there
righteousness.
with you. I'm going to leave you for a little while, but I'll be there, guys. Don't worry about it. Just call on me, and I'll be right there in the form of the Holy Spirit. Let me ask you
Exactly.
something in a very personal question. Y'all don't listen. Y'all just turn your backs away. I have a friend of mine that's dying, and the doctor told her Friday it's going to be any minute. I mean, the only reason she's holding together is because she's extremely powerful. She was a weightlifter, and she's very, 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 very powerful. She's got a lot of meat on her bones, so she doesn't look really like she's going to die, but it's all over her. And she is demanding and just calling out. She may be listening right now. If you are, hello. She's wanting me to come and talk to her, and she's not a religious person. I don't know that I've ever even seen her go to church. What if she says to me, Debbie, what's going to happen to me after I die? I mean, I'm so scared about what to say because I know that's what she's going to talk to me about. And I'm just going to say, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, what do you think? I mean...
Well, I would have a good pastor come and see her, a believing pastor of any faith.
That's what I did with my father,
that believes in Christ and have her trust Christ. But also, she shouldn't give up hope, because I would do the baking soda thing. I would do everything I could to try and salvage my life, assuming she wants to live.
Oh, gosh, yes, she wants to live. She's beautiful.
Yeah,
she's my best friend. She's beautiful. And that has nothing to do with it, but she's got so much to live for.
Yeah, well, I would certainly trust Christ and for her salvation, and I would do everything I could. And sometimes people step outside of the conventional medical situation, and a lot of people are living,
Wait a minute. I understand. Hold on. Let me interrupt you. And they say in the chat room, not the Holy Ghost. That was Satan. No, I think you're wrong. But
wait a minute. What are they talking about?
Well,
wait a minute. Let's finish one thing. Oh, wait a minute, Debbie. Let's finish one thing at a time.
Y'all stand by. I'm going to get to your claims in the chat room. Go ahead, sir.
I would have a good pastor come there and talk to her, present Christ to her, and then I would have a good naturopathic person come and talk to her. I mean, you can talk to her about the baking soda. You said that. I don't know if she has cancer or what she has. Is it cancer?
It's moved into her lungs. It's moved into her bones. It's moved into her what do you call the glands? The
lymph nodes.
The lymph nodes. It's in her brain.
Well, you told me that stage 4 cancer has been reversed through the use of baking soda
in the digestive system, where it can go through the digestive system is what I've read. But I also have read that people have had it actually put into different parts of their body.
Absolutely, and vitamin C tends to serve. I mean, it's normally taken in mega doses, ascorbic acid, and it has an alkalinizing effect, even though it is called an acid. They tell me for any toxin, snake bite, whatever, they give patients a vitamin C drip. So I would say for her to explore every option. As long as there's life, there's hope. And so I would just pursue every avenue. But I would certainly trust Christ.
She's emailing me every day, and I'm just...
Well, all of us are terminal. All of us are terminal. It's just a matter of time. In 100 years, probably every one of us listening here will be dead, and it's the way it goes. So I would just certainly accept Christ. You don't have anything to lose. Accept Christ as fire insurance. What's wrong with that?
Well, I hate to. I just think that God can look right through us and think, well, wait a minute, if you're just saying that.
But it's the same thing with everybody. It's no deeper for anybody.
Right.
All of us, okay, when you get a chance, Debbie, You read Romans chapter 1 where it says, no, none are righteous. No, not one.
Right.
So all of us are on the same platform. And so accepting Christ is the only thing that makes a difference. What do you mean if she, say what you just said again, she's just doing it?
No, not her in particular, but what if somebody goes, okay, just to buy a ticket into heaven, they say, okay, I believe. But
why not? That's good enough. If they accept Christ.
But they don't really believe.
Okay, now that's a separate issue.
That's what I'm saying.
You didn't say that.
That's what I said. They're just saying it to be saying it.
Well, then that's a separate issue. If
right.
they're just saying it to be saying it, well, obviously that's not
all
legitimate.
bets are off. All bets are off. Right, okay.
But they can say it and mean it
right.
because it's the only avenue of hope and or escape that they have. Look, Christ wasn't called.
I would take a lie detector on it to check my belief. I believe in it so hardly.
Right. But let me say this, dear. Christ wasn't the Savior for nothing. Savior means save you. Save you from what? Hell and damnation. The coming destruction. Noah's ark was the Savior in the time of Noah. So if you got on that ark, it didn't matter. I mean, you could have been the worst Hitler could be saved. Now, a lot of people may not. Mussolini. Any of the people that we consider the worst people on earth, they could be saved at the last minute because they couldn't have done what they did without the help of other people. So other people assisted them. God has put humanity on the same level. All are sinners and come short. Trust my son and be saved. That's it. Even I can understand that.
Absolutely. I've never claimed to be, do good. I've never claimed to be sin-free by any stroke of the brush. Are you kidding me?
Well, no one is sin-free. Look, the good we do is out of the changed nature. When our first parents, they corrupted us. They passed that sin gene on to us. And if you don't believe it, if you think your little Susie or little Jimmy or little whatever his name is the greatest person, just watch him. Don't train him. Of course, I'm saying this facetiously, but you get the gist. Kids have to be trained.
You're damn right. I believe, like the ancient theologians believed, that we are all born with just a few drops of pure evil in us, and it's up to our parents to beat it out of us. I'm serious. Hush. Don't laugh. I'm serious. Your laugh kills me because it's so genuine. It's not a laugh that you get very often. Okay, there is no good reason to believe that you are over there. You just happen to be born in a place where Christianity is the dominant religion. They're saying that for example, me, perhaps. And then they say there's a billion Catholics, a billion Muslims, a billion Hindus, Buddhist, Shinto, Jainism, Mormonism, hell, Scientology. Christians don't even agree on what they believe. There are 30,000 different denominations of Protestantism alone. I know many people who claim Christian but never read their holy book don't know what it says. If I believed in the creator of the universe, I'd want to know what it says. They just took their parents' religion. And then it goes on to say, that's true, Debbie. God should know better if you are faking it. It's a version of Pascal Wager.
Pascal Wager.
Oh,
Pascal, Blaise Pascal.
You're such a show-off. You're such a show-off, I said.
No.
No, I know.
It's good to read that wager, by the way. I was just thinking about it recently. Well, what Pascal basically said in gist is that if there were only 50% evidence for God, it would be appropriate for one to at least seriously consider God. He says, however, the evidence is greater than 50% that God exists. And by the way, Pascal was a mathematician. One of his many fields. He was a noted mathematician.
I love you.
Hello?
No, that's pescado. Victor said Pascal's fish. I said, no, that's pescado. RD says, see, this debate is again a perfect example of what is wrong in the world. The emphasis is on the differences again. There are so many things in religion that people that not believe agree with. We should not let differences fool us that we are different, for we are all the same in Lachish.
Let me say this, Debbie. One of the issues is, and I'm glad to address this, people don't live up generally to the righteousness that's in them. There's an inborn witness to people called a conscience, okay? Most people, outside of people who are, utterly defective, like maybe a sociopath or a psychopath, but they have an internal witness known as a conscience. So what happens is generally people don't live up to that, the level of righteousness that their conscience bears witness to. But God will save anyone who will open their heart and mind to the need for salvation. Now, this person who comes up with all these arguments, and these are some fairly clever arguments, by the way. I've dealt with these extensively in the past. But these arguments don't excuse that person one iota, because God is going to have one question for you, only one. What did you do with my son? That's it. That's it.
So no Jews are going to heaven, no Muslims will be in heaven, no only Christians will be in heaven. So.
There'll be plenty of Jews. There'll be plenty. You're talking about sons of Abraham. You're a daughter of Abraham. I'm a son of Abraham. Remember what we just said. The whole world.
But they don't believe that Jesus Christ was the son.
Wait a minute. No. Let me finish this point, if I will.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If you go back to what it said here, and let me see if I can find it right quickly, but I'll quote it even if I can. Remember what God told Jacob. The whole what? The whole world will be blessed through you. So that means Christ's sacrifice is efficacious for anyone who will believe. And that's all they have to do. You don't have to be perfect. In fact, let me just share something with you. You won't be perfect. You'll be perfect based on the sacrifice that Christ. See, what happens is, Christ, remember, and you said it beautifully the other night. Am I coming through? Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, remember the scapegoat. The scapegoat was man's method of dealing with sins. They would substitutionarily place all the sins upon the head of that goat, the scapegoat. And then they would whack that goat and send that goat off into the wilderness to never be seen again, correct? That goat typified the ultimate Savior, who was Christ. That's what the whole world was looking forward to. So when Christ got here, and he was suspended up on that cross, that was God dying for all of humanity. So in human form, by the way. So then all humans can be saved by just believing in the finished work of Christ. We couldn't do it. We only have one life. And if we give that, that's all we have. Whereas God can give his life because God has life. God possesses life. So he gave his life on that cross. And now all people who will listen to him, not those who are arrogant and who will argue away, because when you get before God, you're going to need a representative. You're going to need a lawyer. And that's who Christ is. That's what I believe the word is parakletos, or advocate. Parakletos, advocate. And you're going to need Christ's advocacy when you stand before God. So you stand before God, and God reads the charges. And when Christ can say, I represent him, that's it. You're in. But if you represent yourself, you're in trouble. Plain and simple.
Intellect is this man's worst enemy. Are you talking about Mr. Solution? Oh, I would argue about that all day long. No, you're absolutely wrong about that. Intellect is not his worst enemy. I often look at that. I want to comment about what you said. You know, if you were to say to me, Debbie, go over to the University of California or whatever, go over to Berkeley and and sit in on the science labs all afternoon and tell them that Mr. Solution sent you. Okay? I would go over there and I would say, I get to sit in on all the science labs today because Mr. Solution told me I could. I always feel like when I'm talking to God, sometimes I bypass Jesus and go straight to God. And I always say, when people say, I come in the name of Jesus Christ, I always say it's kind of like telling God, I'm here, I'm with the band, Jesus. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm here on his, because I don't know what I'm trying to say. I get tangled sometimes when I'm talking.
Well, what Jesus said, it makes it easy. I'll just quote what he said.
But do you know what I'm trying to say, though?
I do. I
okay.
do. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. That's it. Now, human beings can get puffed up. See, all of us are going to die. All of us are going to die a death that is going to overcome us. You've heard the old term, the death rattle. When we breathe our last, we're going to attempt to breathe, but whatever is taking our life, whether it's old age, cancer, a Mack truck, a bus, whatever, we're going to try and bring that last breath in, and we're going to be overcome. If you go and you look at the death of Jesus, Jesus died voluntarily. He simply breathed out and didn't attempt to breathe in. He just dismissed his spirit. That showed that he had control over death. Hello?
Yeah, I was just typing in the chat room. They said that intellect is not intelligence. And I said, intelligence is born, intellect is learned, in my opinion.
Well.
What? I believe that...
No, I was just going at the statement. No, we learn. Look, I've said, and I said this a moment ago, much of what we are demonstrated as human is the result of our socialization. We're socialized into a culture, given a language, given ideas, given experiences and what have you. So we most of us don't think this through very well. Our inculcation or our socializing is fundamentally what makes us human. We wouldn't be human if we weren't socialized as humans.
I'm having an argument in the chat room. He said, I disagree. Intelligence is not something that you're born with, in my opinion. It's something that you have to reach. It's like a level. I said, I disagree. You cannot teach intelligence. Intelligence is what you are. Intelligence.
Well, Immanuel Kant talked about the blank slate. And when I was in school, I ended up disagreeing with that because there are prerequisites for everything we know. For example, we learn to tell time, right?
Right.
But there's the prerequisite for the understanding of time in order for us to learn to tell time. In other words, there's a time stamp in our psyche. Just like there's
let me explain what I mean. What I mean, sir, is that you are born. Some people are born with the wanting to learn. They're wanting to know. They're wanting to learn. They're very absorbent. They're not bullheaded and lackadaisical, whatever.
You're talking about motivation, possibly.
Well,
right?
Yeah. I think that there's a factor in there that some people just have, that they're just more intelligent. They think things through. They study harder. You know what I mean? They're a student of life. Whatever. I think that, to me, that's intelligence. That's not being an idiot. An idiot's like, oh, fuck, man, I don't want to do whatever. I think that's a doofus. And I think that intelligence to me is somebody that's a grounded person, that go-getter, let's do it, just always wanting to learn and better themselves and whatever.
Exactly. They're motivated and they put forth an effort. So, yeah.
I guess, but I don't see, do you believe that there's some people that are just so ignorant that they just can't get it, no matter what it is? Even if they're not, even if they're...
No. I think the issue is narcissism and pridefulness, and, of course, selfishness. I would say and argue, I think, effectively or possibly conclusively, that the greatest sin in the universe is selfishness.
Pride.
It's selfishness, yeah. In other words, looking to self falsely.
Well,
that was the sin.
Of course you're allowed to disagree. That's why you're here. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that I disagree and you disagree, and so let's just agree to disagree and love each other just the same. No, that's fine. But I disagree, absolutely. But I've agreed with everything else that you've said, and I continue to interrupt Mr. Solutions, and he's going to kill me.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. No, I'm just saying selfishness, because if you look at most people, you say, well, what's the basis for your taking the position that you're taking? And oftentimes it's just simply selfishness, closed-mindedness. And that will hurt you. That can definitely hurt you in the long run. That can hurt one in the long run. So my position is to, look at the evidence. That's why I believe it's in Isaiah 1:18, come let us reason together. You also see it in Romans chapter 12. This is your reasonable duty. I mean, you see that word reasonable crop up throughout the scripture. And so I just think that we're just talking about it here. That's all. I mean, most people have some time left. Most of us who are alive now, I mean, God gives us plenty of time. God is very gracious. But I just
And
think...
we have another person that says, you existed for many years in your mother's womb, and your grandmothers and your great-great-great-grandmothers, and so on and so on. That's where our knowledge comes from. Do you really believe that? Do you believe that, Mr. Solution?
Well, I don't know if the person knows really what they're saying. If they say that we are produced from antecedent generations or family line, yeah, I mean, that's unarguable. But we come into consciousness once we're born. And that's where we're held responsible. We're not held responsible for things that happen before we're born. We're held responsible for what we do once we're born and become aware. You see? Because a large part of the time that we live, say, I don't know about you, Debbie, but I think I remember back when I was 4 years old, certainly when I was 5, but the time before that I don't remember.
I wonder why. I've often wondered why Mr. Solution, I was going to call you God. I wonder why God, I wonder why Mr. Solution, no, I wonder why God dissolves our memory before then. I mean, is it maybe because so many of us get abused at a young age, or what? I mean, think about that.
I'm sorry, that's a great question, and I would just think we're at a stage, a developmental stage, that it's just not necessary at that point.
Knowledge is belief justified with evidence? Interesting, Stabby.
Excuse me. Now, our brains are growing, but we're not able to really comprehend things. We have to be further socialized. We have to mature. If you think of most creatures, most animals, as it were, they are born like a giraffe. I love to watch nature. They are born. I mean, when that giraffe, it drops about 6 feet. Imagine coming into the world with a thump like that. So the baby giraffe is dropped from a height of about 6 feet. And within 30 minutes, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, it's on its feet.
It's running.
And can keep up with its mother. And that's phenomenal. You take the human species, we need to be about, 18 before we're considered adults? And, so the human being has the longest maturation period of virtually any creature.
Do you believe that belief is holding a statement to be true? It says nothing about the statement being true?
I'm sorry, repeat, please.
Belief is something that is true to you and doesn't mean that it is true.
Oh, no. Biblical belief, I believe the word is pistuo, or trust, and it means belief that is based on evidence. See, you used the term earlier, blind faith. The Bible does not teach blind faith. It teaches you to believe based on the evidence. That's why Christ could say, and I love this guy. What's his name? Thomas. Thomas says, I won't believe. And, he had all the apostles telling him, hey, Christ is risen. He says, I won't believe until I see the nail prints in his hands and feet, and I put my finger in those prints. And Christ appeared and says, here I am, here they are. Now, we're not told if he ever needed to do that, but he ended up saying...
That's where we get the doubting Thomas from,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. But doubting Thomas is very good because a person like myself, a fairly sensible person that needs evidence, wants something of that nature. Now, that's captured in the record. But the point is a person can believe despite the evidence, but the biblical
We have some definitions. The definition of knowledge is acquaintance with facts, truths, or principles, as from study or investigation or general erudition. The definition of intelligence is capacity for learning, reasoning, understanding. Now that's what I said. And similar forms of mental activity, aptitude in grasping truths, relationships, facts, or meanings. That's what I said. Knowledge is something you know and use. Intelligence is the ability to learn, reason, understand, grasp concept, relationships, facts, meanings, and of things. Very good. That's what I wanted to say right there.
Well, Debbie, the cornerstone of Christianity is the empty tomb. And of course, everybody there could they could go to that tomb, they could look at it, they could see that it was empty, and moreover, the people actually saw the resurrected Christ. They didn't see a man that was limping around, and that Roman centurion made sure that was a death expert. He knew when someone was dead, and that's the reason he thrust that spear in Christ's side. He thrust that spear completely under the heart. That spear went deep.
Now,
and so the thing of it is, the evidence for Christ's death is overwhelming. And then, of course, he was laid in that tomb, that cold tomb. He was not treated. Now, when he came out of there, he didn't manifest any deficiencies of mobility or any maladies of physicality. And he was able to move about very freely, even through locked doors. So the thing of it is, the scriptures, when properly understood, are very evidence-based. It's not just you believe this because I said believe it, but it's believe it because the evidence supports belief.
Well, they have in Hebrew 11, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen.
Right. And that conviction, there's 1 Thessalonians 5:21 that says, examine or prove everything and hold fast to that which is, which is true. So
but how can you say to the unbeliever, how can you say to an unbeliever, sir, I need proof of God?
That's exhibit 1. Look at your need. You as a human being, you need sustaining. You need food, you need air, and you're going to die one day.
My paycheck pays for that. But think
well,
about it.
But what I'm saying is, Debbie, we're all vulnerable. Right. We are very vulnerable. Human beings are extremely vulnerable. And it's just being open enough to realize your vulnerability. And if a person concludes that they don't need God, I'm okay with that too. Ultimately, if they say, I'm sufficient, I'm good, okay, be well.
Intuition needs no evidence. It is based on feeling and trusting your heart. That is why there needs to be a balance between intellect and intuition for a true intelligence to be born. Very interesting. Now, I wanted to answer a question earlier that's off topic on the issue of Blog Talk Radio. I made up my mind last night in the wee hours of the morning. No, I'm joking. Late last night, talking to a few people, I'm going back with Blog Talk Radio.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to bing, bang, boom, bash them at 10 p.m. I'm going back with a vengeance. No, I'm joking. I'm going to go ahead and re-sign and go back for just one more hoorah and see what goes down over there, because I've been asked to come back, to be honest with you, and I've neglected it and said, I didn't even re-up my contract over there. It's just sort of laying dormant. I mean, I'm still there, but I can only do like one of those little 30-minute shows that are free or whatever. Is it a 15-minute show now, or is it 30?
I think it was half an hour with 15 minutes off air.
So they made me an offer I can't refuse. No, offered me a really low thing, and I'm going to go ahead, I guess, and I'll be simulcasting, of course. I won't leave Spreaker, but what it'll be whenever you, and I'm going to keep you, Mr. Solution, on Skype, because it's so much nicer to have you here. We're not under the restraints of the time, and we can ring in as many calls as we want over there and ring them in and start fighting. No, I'm joking.
Is that the greater benefit? And I'm just asking, this is totally...
The only benefit.
Is the call-in, it's easier to call in?
Alan Levy got a copyright, he got a patent. This is true, because in 2007, this is a fact, in 2008, 2008, I was asked by a gentleman in Pennsylvania and another one in California to form a corporation with them and duplicate Blog Talk Radio and go and take the world by storm. These guys were serious. They had investors out of India. They had all this stuff going on. But sir, Alan Levy put a patent on that switchboard, that VoIP thing and we cannot. That's why nobody has duplicated the switchboard on Blog. I'm probably the one that named it the switchboard. But what do they call it? The studio on Blog Talk Radio, the ability to take those calls like that and have that number, that 1-800 or whatever everybody calls in on. And he patented it. I mean, it's a big deal. It's boom, boom, boom. You can see it on the internet, and nobody can do it. It's actual hardware that he did. Or
he'll
something.
Probably lease it out. At some point, maybe.
That's why nobody's done it. Nobody's done it.
But nobody's done what? Leased it out?
Nobody's duplicated the thing. Now, how do they do TalkShoe? TalkShoe is what do you call that? Like a party line. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think you heard what I said, Deb.
Okay.
Because I think what he knew what he had. Knew it was the better or the stem winder of the switchboards, and of course he got a patent on it. Now a patent does have a duration, but while he owns that patent, maybe he'll lease it out, kind of like a McDonald's or whatever. Lease it out to other companies. Do you see that potentially happening?
I don't know, but I know a bunch of juicy secrets about stuff going on with hither and there and hither and yon and all that good stuff, but I'm not going to divulge those on the air. But
I was just
the
saying,
switchboard over there, it can't be beat. But the sound, if Alan Levy would come up from 32-bit rate and throw in, I've heard if he would throw in $150,000, he could pull them up to 128-bit rate sound quality. The sound quality is crap, Mr. Salouche. You know that. It's horrible.
Well, you guys hear it a little bit differently than I do. I know the sound is okay here, and I know you sound a little bit different. But I didn't have that much of a problem, as far as I'm concerned, with Blog Talk. The problem I had was, number one, with logging in. It has this crazy, it doesn't let you log in very well. And then you have these commercials keep popping up undesirably. So
and
those were more.
You can't move your cursor on the page without going to an ad. It's just I have to maneuver my cursor very carefully if I don't turn on a damn ad over there. It's ads.
Yeah, those were more of my concerns than necessarily the sound quality.
Exactly. Anybody can call into this radio show right now. All you have to do is you have to have Skype. Now, why do you say, what is a talisman? What is a TALISMAN? TALISMAN. Because this gentleman said this to me, RD said this to me the other night. Debbie, that's a whatever. Do you know what that is?
No, not right offhand.
I don't either.
What is TALISMAN, did you say?
TALISMAN. Yeah.
I could take a moment and look it up.
Yeah. Because he said, just look at the power of a talisman. Talisman. It's either talisman or talisman. Very good, Stabby. I don't need to burn incense or light candles either. Yeah, he's looking at that. Is a ritual. Oh, a talisman is a ritual object said to hold powers. Okay, why was that brought up? I didn't scroll up yet. Talisman. Okay, I see what you're saying, I guess. A spell or... Oh, Psalm 91? Oh, no.
Yeah, I see it here. It says a stone, ring, or other object engraved with figures or characters supposed to possess occult powers and worn as a amulet or charm.
Would you see Psalm 91 as a talisman?
Where would you would have to read it. What are you saying?
It's one of the only places in the Bible where God himself promises me, and whoever, but he promises me that he's going to protect me and he's going to see that harm doesn't come my way, and it's worked so far so good. I mean, and he promises me. It's one of the very few places in the Bible where I've seen a direct promise from him, from the big guy.
Well, there are promises made in the Ten Commandments, particularly the one...
I have a Skype phone number, Lester. It's 214-444-5488. What do you mean that definition is nonsense? Okay, guys.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What I'm doing is I'm having a panel. It's my voice, but there's about 4 people on the panel with us.
Oh, okay. Well, Larry Elder defied the one where it says, honor your father and mother, so that your days will be long upon the earth. So that is a commandment with promise. But look here, it said a cult, and a cult is of or pertaining to magic, astrology, or any system claiming use or knowledge of secret or supernatural powers or agencies. And I would say other than the true God. So I would say no, that would not apply to Psalm 91, because Yahweh is the one that authorizes Psalm 91.
Psalm 91 just brings me peace when I don't feel peace, when I feel unpeace. I mean, it's just the most beautiful written scripture I've ever heard in my life, and I just stick to it. And I will play it for you now, if you will so oblige.
Sure.
All right, Psalm 91 by Max McLean. Take a listen. Tell me what you think.
Psalm 91. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
There you go.
Fantastic. That's a great promise.
Yeah.
And you accept that promise.
Absolutely. I have it on a pillow. I have it on the wall. I have it on several places in my house.
That's very good. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know why. I've just always gone, I love that one, so just always done. And so far, it's, whatever. I mean, I have faith in it, but I'm trimming my bangs here as I tell me to stop cutting on my hair. My bangs are driving me nuts in my eyes. Well, this has been fun. This has been an interesting show because there's so much in the chat room going on that I'm trying to, and wouldn't you say tonight, sir, that it's good, decent chat going on in the chat room?
I can't see the chats, but from what you read,
well, yeah.
I think there are open and honest, fair questions that are being asked. And I would just say, our lives are the testing period and are the testing ground. And I just hope we all draw the right conclusions before the close of our lives. So, but I think there's been great interaction. And I agree with you on the Blog Talk side. I enjoy people like our old regulars calling up and giving us the business, as it were.
Ooh, I bet they're wondering where we are tonight.
Yeah, you hid from them, Debbie.
Ooh, I bet they're pulling their hair out. So yes,
they think you've escaped.
Somebody came over from Blog Talk and said her name, or the name is Rosie Roz in the chat room, and they said, Debbie, what are you doing? Are you not going to come back to BTR or what? Yes or no?
Yeah, we miss you at BTR. You got to go back.
I'm coming back every night at 10 o'clock when I'm on the air. I'm not on the air every night, but when I'm on the air, I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock.
Are you going to be able to... Now this will be resurrecting the dead, sort of pun intended. Are you going to bring that motley crew back with you?
Anybody that calls in, I don't know.
You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yes, I know. Now, Steve is a permanent fixture in my life, as is David, and the people that I love. But
right.
Those
but
two,
I mean, my son. And,
I know who you're talking
to.
And
his buddy.
Well, I did
JP.
I did say today on Facebook. I said, what did I say? I said, I thank you for your phone. Oh, he called. By the way, Triple M called and said.
Oh, he called. Okay.
He called and gave a left-handed apology or explanation for things. Don't brand me for what JP does is sort of what he was saying in a way, but that's between us. But he sort of called and we kind of talked things out. Not
bless his heart. That's
hush.
awfully big of him.
But it really wasn't an apology. It was just sort of a something. I don't know. I wasn't really thrilled with it, but whatever. You can take what you get. But
well, Debbie, is there any chance of them getting a show back?
No. As a matter of fact, Mr. Midnight Movie told me he's IP banned from that network.
What does that mean? Oh, wait a minute. IP.
He can't even go to www.blogtalkradio.com. It says you are blocked from this website. Which means Blog Talk is the one who got him, not somebody else.
Wow. Is this a first?
No, it's happened to Bill Wagner. And Bathtub Girl got IP banned.
So that means he would have to get another computer, or wait a minute, another internet provider.
Well, yeah, or unplug his modem for 5 hours. But the thing about it is he got IP banned off of it, and I don't know that JP did, but Mr. Midnight Movie told me he was IP banned off the site. which is, they're saying, get the F out of here, which would mean to me that if that happens, in my past experience, that if I even have him on my show and they hear him, they'll pull my show.
Now, you know what? I thought that was true of people that they banned because it would necessarily make sense. Because unless there are different levels that they ban people, and that's considered the highest. But that was a point that I brought up.
Mr. Midnight, Mr. Solution, they told me that if I even talked about Bill Wagner, I was off the network, that I would be banned, and if I had him on the show, they would pull me mid-sentence.
Damn.
Rip. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. You know what I'm saying?
So, in other words, so this goes to, this proves what I said.
Yes.
That Blog Talk was surveilling him.
Yes. I meant to tell you that. I forgot to
tell you that.
They
were surveilling him. Yes. So his blaming other people was totally inappropriate. It was Blog Talk that got onto him.
If you rub one of the big shots the wrong way, if they really start listening to you and go, wait a minute, I don't like this either, they will start monitoring your show and they will pull it.
Now, that's what I thought initially, because what he was saying was just so in violation of the terms of use agreement. So anyway, you're corroborating,
But they wanted to blame you.
Yeah, and other people.
And me.
They wanted to blame others, but
which was stupid.
Wow, that's a revelation.
Yep, IP banned off of the site because he said he tried to go to Blog Talk Radio and it said this IP address is blocked from this website.
So if one disconnects their modem for 5 hours, how will that circumvent the ban?
It changes your IP address.
Oh, brilliant.
But see, they took it even one step further because back in 2009 when they were cleaning house with the Bill Wagner crew, they even banned hidemyip.com. They blocked proxies.com. They banned, they blocked all the proxy servers. They were getting really, really sick and tired of their bullshit because they were going behind proxies and going on there. Well, they got to where they blocked the proxy servers.
But this is not 3M, though. This was
No, not necessarily. But I'm saying, so if they think they're going to go on there under Hide My Ass or Hide My IP, they've got those blocked, from what I understand.
Oh.
Yeah, because a lot of people were circumventing it. So
I hope they get back on the air because we need to hear, no matter how buffoonish something is. I'm a free speech advocate, and I don't go as far as Chris went. I mean, Chris was saying it's okay to holler fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, I thought that was very immature because what you're doing now is you're injuring other people or potentially injuring other people with your irresponsible speech. And so I certainly didn't go that far. But I would love to hear those crazy guys back on the air.
Yeah, and those people try to say that I got people banned and all this weird shit. I didn't get somebody. I can't ban anybody. Are you kidding me? They would act like I could pick up the phone and go, hi, Blog Talk Radio. Yeah, this is Debi, Daly. Hi, Debi. Go ahead and ban, let's see, today I want Goofy, and let's ban Mr. Midnight Movie. All right, anybody else? Yeah, let's ban Monkey Shoes. Thank you. Are you kidding me?
Right. I got you. Now, Monkey Shoes never had a show. He doesn't speak. He's kind of...
Well, but I'm saying, just as an example, that's what these mullets tried to say that I had the power to do. Are you kidding me?
Right.
No.
I got you.
When you get banned like that, you've pissed off Blog Talk Radio people, not Debi Daly.
That's what I thought. And 3M has the ability to piss off virtually anybody. And I think that has hampered him in his personal development.
What did he do to get himself banned? Would you like to take that, or would you like for me to take that one?
No, go ahead, please.
Well, he began to have inflammatory talk, which went to basically the hate show. And it was, if it was racist, if it was, well, no, you tell them what all those words that you have, if it was, what do you call it, bigot, they began to just say, they went crazy. They had Bathtub Girl on it. I mean, it was pretty wild. Would you agree? I mean...
Yeah, I do. But see, this is the thing. Anybody listening to that would just... I've listened to other shows that were, pretty bad, too.
Let me show you one of the last shows they did, and you be the judge.
Okay,
Here we go. I'll take it, and just take a listen to one of the last shows that they did. And give me a moment. I'm opening up my iTunes, and here it comes. It's right. Okay, listen to this right. Oh no, that's my show. Let's see. I'm finding it. Just be patient.
You must have do you have a server of your own?
I don't know. Maybe. Take a listen to
Store
this.
all of that information.
And everyone has told you that you have a complete and total narcissistic personality disorder.
Now wait a minute. Everyone, including who? You think I take your
where's your source of information?
Well,
Tell
one
the
of them
truth.
is Dennis Spreaker. Another one is Michael Medved.
Let's go one step
where's your
further.
source of information? And they give money to these mega churches and other things. Why aren't they giving money to invest in Africa and build homesteads there?
Black people do commit more of those crimes, but it's all economic.
I don't have any sort of... I'm not an expert on the subject, but I thought...
Me and Mr. Solution aren't saying a word. This is the show.
Soldiers gave blankets to the Indians and made them die. They gave them smallpox.
Did come into these people's genes.
And it went on and on and on. Just like they would just incite riots is basically what they would do.
But you know what?
But that's what they wanted to do. I mean, he did the Jap Christ. He said one of them was Stop Prison Rape, the Jewish Hitler Show, Knockout Show, the Hate Show, Mr. Solution is Afraid to Debate Show.
It may have been something on his last show. I didn't hear that one because when I went there to listen, it was gone. It said 404.
This one's for the Duke is the last time he aired on January the 12th, and it went a little something like this.
Better gun laws. And like I said, people should be polite. And if they're not going to be polite and...
fear at all. I understand the differences, but, do you like that kind of lifestyle? Is that how you always be, or do you imagine living...
And they would be getting mugged every day. Their kids would be getting their lunch money stolen every day.
Happen. Why are people... Stabby, why are you not standing with me to blow people's heads off? What's wrong with you?
So it was just a real...
And if he had a gun, someone could walk up to him and take it and slap him and pistol whip him with his gun. He wouldn't shoot anybody. Because, see, people who will actually do something don't talk about it. They just do it.
I agree. I agree.
He's harmless. He's a big, fluffy teddy bear.
I frankly don't have... I mean, y'all know I don't really have a problem with the guy. I just think that there's something wrong with JP right now. I don't know what his problem is. He's gotten kind of weird on me, but it was just a show of just like, it was just...
Well, I'm really hoping that they get a new show. I don't care where. Maybe on Spreaker. Why don't they come... Is Spreaker expensive? I haven't seen the pricing.
Not really.
Chart.
Not really.
They should come. Why won't they come?
They've got a show, but they can't do it because they haven't figured out the way to make the. They want a switchboard is what they want to be able to take all these calls and load up their calls so that everybody can argue and do what they just. I think that's what they want to do, and so I sent Jewish Producer an ad in the Los Angeles Craigslist for $40. There was a board like what I operate off of, and I don't know what else I can do. I've laid it in their lap what to do, but they...
Oh, so the board is available, is what you're saying.
Well, what I do is what I'm saying. They could take Skype calls,
Skype. But they want to be under the banner of Blog Talk. In other words, they want to do it like the board is arranged for Blog Talk.
Yeah, but they did not want to comply with what they were trying to. All they were telling them to do is tone it down a little bit. Keep it, at a low rumble or whatever. And they just raged against the machine. They would get louder and louder.
So right now, if we understand each other clearly, they do have an upcoming show, and they'll be on the air pretty soon. Because see, let me say this:
they're IP banned off the site.
No, I got it, but I'm talking about on Spreaker.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I offered them I told them they could have this show for a couple of nights a week. I would go nowhere around it. And JP wanted nothing to do with it. He just nah.
What was his reasoning? He doesn't have much sense.
I don't know. There's something wrong with JP right now.
And he doesn't talk enough either. He's as boring as cardboard.
Well,
so
I
no
don't
one
know.
would want to listen.
He just kind of...
Midnight Movie is the voice. JP is not
right.
the voice. No one wants to hear what he has to say.
Well, I don't know that I would say that, but I respect your opinion.
I'm just telling you, he never says anything that anyone cares about.
Well, he's a chat room warrior, and I understand that mentality, but to take it to the level that he's taken it, I don't understand. And we talked about that last night, Steve and I. Steve and I said, enough is enough, because he was just over and over just bashing me, and I hadn't done anything. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I do. He just goes wild in the chat room. And all of those, all I'm saying is, he doesn't make for good conversation. Midnight Movie is the voice and the lack of brain, but the brain. It's a lack of brain, but at the same time, it's a brain. At least he says he's inflammatory, he says utterly stupid things, and he's kind of funny, so he's a little bit entertaining. But JP is not entertaining. I'm just saying. I mean, I wouldn't listen.
No, I'm not. Do you hear me disagreeing with you?
Right. He's very boring. He's extremely boring.
But it's I don't know. It's really, really weird what's kind of happened. When we were on a Skype call the other night, Holly Stalin, Steve, and Mr. Midnight Movie were on just a Skype call, just chit-chatting. Nobody was on the air.
Right.
And Holly began to be kind of snippet with me and flippant. But in lieu of lighting her up and blowing her out, I hung up. I just hung up.
I don't know her, by the way.
And Jewish producer took that as a direct hit, which is some big unforgivable sin that I've committed, and he's standing his ground that he's upset. And Mr. Midnight.
Wait a minute, who is Holly? Who is she? Is she friends with someone?
She's a young girl that has a show here on Spreaker, and she kind of spreads herself thin on the nighttime shows. She'll go to here and there and everywhere, and I've just seen her recently in too many chat rooms just really dogging me. And I did find out that person that we talked about, Lester, that was in the chat room, Southern something, that went straight to her. So there you have it.
And Debbie, Spreaker, just looking at the arrangement, Spreaker doesn't, I'm gauging everything by Blog Talk, but at least Blog Talk has a central location to where you can go, where the shows are. Does Spreaker have a similar?
Yes, if you go to Explore, up in Explore on the top right corner of the homepage, then you scroll down, you'll see Live Now or Live, and you click Show More. It'll show everybody that's live right then.
Okay, if you go to Explore, it's at the top of but it's on the homepage. Okay, on the homepage. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And you have to
but it's not easy to find. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not as easy.
Well, I think with the influx of what happened in the recent exodus over at Blog Talk Radio, when we all decided to whatever,
right.
I think that it's growing exponentially. It's growing faster than they can keep up with it, because I know I had told several people we need to be able to schedule shows. That would be great. So they added that feature.
Right.
And so I don't know.
Are the prices comparable to Blog Talk?
Blog Talk is extremely expensive compared to Spreaker's $19.99 a month for what you're hearing here. 3 hours a day, unlimited, whatever. $19 a month. Now I don't pay anymore. I have mine's comped for 10 years.
Right. But now you're not forgetting that Blog Talk allows 30 minutes free and another 15 minutes off the air.
Right, but I don't know. 30 minutes is just enough to get my people assembled in a way. You would agree.
Okay, I got you. All right, if you want to break it off now, we're at, I think, chapter 30, yes. And we can pick it up there next time.
You are an absolute doll, and you know that.
All right, well, thank you, and so are you, and you have a great evening, you and your family, and I'll talk to you next time, okay?
I will do that, Mr. Solution. Until next time, thank you.
Absolutely, bye-bye.
And then there was one. He didn't hang up yet. Goodbye, Mr. Solution. Wait for it. Hold on. And wait, let me see. And then there was one. It's so quiet. I hope he gets a better connection. I feel certain that he will get a better connection.
I'm going to gurgle semen right now.
The Debi Daly Show.
I'm going to gurgle semen right now, he said. You know, I love Mr. Midnight Movie. You know I do. There's no doubting that. He knows I do. But something went a little bit cuckoo with Jewish producer. I want to show y'all some Lester-isms, I call them, that I got. They're really funny. I think they're... I'll show you the one that my husband just went nuts over. He thought was funny. This one he thought was funny.
You know what the difference is between a girlfriend and a wife? About 45 pounds, I reckon.
He thought that was hysterical. And this one is good.
Divorce. It comes from the Latin word that means to rip a man's genitals out by way of his wallet. That's a fact.
This one is my favorite.
I learned something not long ago. Don't ever take a sleeping pill and a laxative on the same night. It's not pretty, neighbor. That's a fact.
It's just the voice. The voice is so damn funny. Here's another one that's great.
A man without a woman is like a fish without a bicycle. I am a deep thinker.
Lester-isms from Ye of Long Tooth. Went bowling tonight for my birthday with a bunch of people. I put out a video to just sort of say, here I am. Here's what I still look like, everybody. And it was shot right here in front of my mirror where I look. I'm so stupid. I turn on my webcam when I want to when I'm getting ready, because I love this desk because there's all these plugs. I can use my styling iron and my hair dryer and whatever. And Victor says, hit record. And I was like, oh, okay. I hit record. And you can see me talking to Victor, but there's no audio. So I dropped the link to that. It's over on YouTube. I also put it on Twitter just to kind of let people know, who I am. I am what I say I am. I'm not a 300-pound person. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm just Debbie. And that's all I ever claimed to be, period. This has been an interesting night. Let's see. That's about it, I guess. But no, there's nothing catastrophic going on. It's just JP got a little crooked the other day for some reason, and I don't know why. And he kind of got he kind of got on Steve's nerves. Steve and I talked about it last night, and we couldn't make heads or tails of it, so we discussed it on one part of our show last night. I thought I had that, but actually I do. This is what we were talking about right here. Take a listen.
We're both doing it again, Deb. We have to take turns on who talks and who types.
Let me get out of there. Let me say, get out of conversation. Hold on.
All right, so today in news, we've learned
over.
absolutely nothing other than the world is a cruel and unusual place to be. Back to you, Ken, in the studio. All right, Bob.
All right. Debbie Daly has left the conversation, finally. I left the conversation.
Have you listened to Dino's Fuck You Network? Deb, you'd love it. I'm not kidding. He's in our chat right now.
You think so?
Dude has, like, the coolest...
Now, Steve gets cut off, but there's a reason. And at the show before that, I got pulled into a Skype call with the Skype assholes. And when I go in there, sitting on the call is Jewish producer and Mr. Midnight Movie. And I say this. Maybe I could remember to unmute the microphone. Hi, guys. Me.
Say hi. Hi. Say hi. Say hi, Nature Boy. Hi, Nature Boy. Oh.
Hey, little buddy. How are you?
Daddy. That's not Daddy.
Oh,
Daddy. He's got a little boy named Josh. Can you say Josh?
Josh?
Isn't he adorable? Oh, my baby.
He sure is.
That's a
I heard
microphone.
the audio playback earlier. He was just a baby.
I love you so much. Daddy. Daddy? What? Oh, you got tattoos. You got some new tattoos. What is this, a dinosaur? What kind of dinosaur is this?
Well, I was obviously playing some old stuff from the baby. But anyway, I get pulled into the call, and I see them on the call, and Snake Plissken, the head guy, goes, Debbie, we don't know how to go to Spreaker to your show. And because I'd been calling, and I said, well, ask JP and Mr. Midnight Movie. They'll tell you. And I went, think, and hung up. And then when I come in on the second half, that's what I'm saying to Steve, is that I'm out of the call now. And then we discuss it after I get out of the Skype call.
We're both doing it again, Deb. We have to take turns on who talks and who types.
I was trying to get out of it, and I got out of it.
Chimera! Do not attempt to be a real crony without sufficient political influence.
This is the funniest thing you guys have got to hear. It's
financial resources, regulatory protection, and a legal staff capable of decoding multi-thousand-page legislation.
Heads they win, tails you lose. Forget the...
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
The Skype assholes are calling me yet again.
Dude,
well, if I answer
they
the call,
start on me, I'm just going to go right at them. So you know what's going to happen
no,
there.
but
I'm just telling you
it's wanting to make a separate call because too many people on the call are not on my contact list. So it would make a separate call, and I don't want to do that. It'll put you on hold.
Well, I'll drop off and I'll call back in when they're done.
I don't want to talk to them.
Well, then ignore it.
Let me tell them I don't want to talk to them.
Tell
Hey guys, what's up? What's up?
When
hi, Debbie. How are you?
Who's calling me? I'm on the show right now.
Hey, you don't want a show on Block Talk?
No, I'm on Spreaker.com, and y'all keep calling.
We don't know how to get to Spreaker. We're all idiots in here.
Well, ask Mr. Midnight Movie or JP. They'll tell you.
Hey, Moon.
Okay, I hung up. JP and Mr. Midnight Movie are in there. And Snake goes, Debbie, we don't know how to get to Spreaker. Stop calling me, you mullets. Now, this is another group. No, go away. That's the 520 chat.
And I walked away from our chat room because I'm on a different monitor. So if anybody's calling for me, I cannot hear you or see you. I apologize.
I'm going to take off my notifications because everybody see.
Joe.
No, he means something. I mean, he hates somebody. I don't know. I mean, he's always like that in my chat room, and he's. Yeah. From what I've seen in other chat rooms where he didn't know I wasn't saying anything on my show all the time. I mean, right?
Take your 74 listeners and go with them.
He said that ugly.
I don't know why.
And he makes everybody else start being ugly. And we're never ugly to JP. I mean, I'm nothing but sweet to the guy, but I swear to God, the guy's one of my freaking enemies. You know what I mean?
I kind of wonder which one he is sometimes.
That's what I'm saying.
He's got a bipolar thing going on.
And now he's trying to sway Mr. Midnight Movie away from me because he called. Well, I told you about the conversation that he and I had. Maybe he needs to go and stay with Angela. Now, that's me just being paranoid. That's just me just running my mouth. He's not trying to do that. I mean, if he is, whatever. That's just me being stupid. But, so there is no drama. I know people are asking what's going on. To sound very idiotic and to let myself sound very stupid for a minute, but it is true. As stupid as it sounds. It's like me telling you about Barney the dinosaur. This is going to sound that stupid. But however stupid it sounds, there is truth in some stupidity. And the truth and the stupidity of this I'm about to tell you is that there is a group of people that sort of stand shoulder to shoulder, so to speak, not liking me. Okay, and like I've said before, I can understand not liking me. I can understand that. I don't like Ron Paul Girl. There's something about her voice that makes my teeth itch, so I don't listen to Ron Paul Girl. But these people take not liking me to a different level. They not only don't like me, they want to silence me. They don't want anybody else to like me. So occasionally they sort of have we're going to call it a pledge drive, okay, of sorts. And they sort of start going to people that are around me. And, for example, right now there is somebody after the news guy, a friend of the show's. They're hounding him. What are you doing with Debi? What are you doing calling into Debi? One of them got to Cowpote. One of them, and it's the same girl, it's that Angela Truth. She's on a mission to clean house, so to speak. She does it several times a year. We think somebody's trying to get to David. They've tried to get to Steve. And the news guy came to me in a private conversation, which he doesn't care if I talk about because we know each other very well. And he said, she's hounding me. And before that, it was Desert Rose that was hounding him, or some. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know that I am. But occasionally these people go to different internet talk radio shows and they start saying, oh, Debi's this, Debi's that, Debi's this, Debi's that, when about 99% of what they're saying is bullshit. I can understand not liking me. Truly, I can. I mean, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But for God's sake, let me have my place. Okay? I have just as big of a right to be here as anybody else does. I can understand not liking me. I don't bash people on this show. All I'm doing is just talking about what's going on to help give you my side of it. Because there's a lot of it going on. Haven't you noticed all the shows? And a lot of people use me to gain listenership. They hashtag my name. They put they use my name in their show titles. And they just go off into crazy crap. Cowpote is presently in bed with, so to speak, I'm just using that as a metaphor here, with Bathtub Girl. And he's like, I can't believe you would call her children and all this stuff. And I'm, oh, man. So, see, she does get to some people. And that's why I try to give my side. That's all wrong. It's all stupid. I never called her children. You know me well enough to know I'm not going to go out and pimp somebody else's children. I don't want somebody else's children. I can't even fathom making that call. And there was all kinds of proof given to try to silence this woman. I had AT&T records showing I didn't call. Sick the Tank, who was Commander Cumslinger, who was my co-host at the time, set the whole deal into motion. He arranged the call to be made. I do believe there was a call made, but she will not believe that it wasn't me. And in fact, I think it's stupid that she's raising this much hell over a call that was made. Nothing went to fruition out of the thing, from what I can understand, and whatever. But that's her basis of setting out to rid the airwaves of the dumpster. Don't go to the dumpster. It's smelly. It's got fly. It's just a bunch of stupid crap. But she has, over the past several months, she's been able to get people that will stand with her on this. She co-hosts regularly with Todd Morris, who's just flipped his cheese off of his cracker. And I've never done anything to Todd. And again, I can understand not liking me. Don't like me. There's some people that I get bored to tears if I listen to their show. I'm like, oh my God. To me, my personal opinion, this is my personal experience. Listening to Ron Paul Girl makes me dizzy. It makes me want to go take a Ritalin or a Valium or some kind of a drug because it makes my heart beat fast. It's like, just like, it's like gibberish talk. And she just goes on and on and on and on and on. And, Ron Paul's my hero. And, it's just like madness. But I don't go to her then. I don't subscribe to her show, her podcast. I don't watch her videos. I don't necessarily want to go to everybody that's around her and rid them of her. I don't want to dedicate hours upon hours of slandering her. I just simply agree that I don't like. And that's not the only one. There's several people Desert Rose bores me to tears. I turned left at this light and then I drove over there and I took my test and I came home and I made some soup and then I folded my clothes. Okay, that may be somebody's cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea, but I don't set out to destroy Desert Rose. I don't work to have her taken off the air, rid the world. So see, my haters, so to speak, which I think that's a stupid name, are a little cut above what normally goes on. They not only don't like me, they become obsessed with it, and it's just ridiculous. And it's even beyond what anybody would call trolling behavior. It's not trolling; it's just madness, as far as I'm concerned. I'm still plugging along over here. Nothing's changed. Vic's over there. Nothing's changing. Oh well, she's had a very, very bad year. Death is around her. When I heard those words, I just cringed. It's going to take somebody and not only that, but the dichotomy of seeing what the voice comes out of. But that's my personal opinion. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but again, my personal opinion. I'm not trying to tell people not to like her. What if she's your cup of tea, whatever. But having said that, I think that there is some sort of a pledge drive, a pledge drive going on right now to do something because it just seems like it's everywhere. It's like there's hot buttons going off everywhere. So I just continue status quo, Steve and I bloviating about whatever, and me and Mr. Solution talking on the show here. But she gets exceptionally bothered. Not only does she not like me, but she's exceptionally infatuated with Mr. Midnight Movie. And that really rubs her the wrong way when he calls my show and we're buddy-buddy and all that kind of stuff, which we are. We just formed a relationship that is just brother and sister, and it's crazy. He's an absolute mullet. And I think in the big scheme of things that there could be a problem that they have that I have a relationship with Mr. Solution, which I've never really played that game. I love you, you love me. If I have a friendship with somebody, hey, if you're friends with Satan, I could care less, as long as I don't have to be around him when I'm over at your house or whatever. It's like, I don't care who you hang out with. I'm not going to tell you what to do, regardless of what people say. You're going to get the truth right here. Why would I lie? If I were going to lie, I just wouldn't bring it up. I just would let it lay. I would rather just not. God damn it, these glasses are driving me nuts. Sorry. I'm sorry. I just took the Lord's name in vain. Well, I never claimed to be perfect. I'm a work in progress. But, so that's the deal. That's what's going on. I'm not over by my chat room. I'm at iTunes. So I fear going over there right now. But all is well. I'm hanging, everything's cool over here. I guess that's about it, really. I can't think of anything else to bloviate about over here. So thanks, guys, for being there, listening. I hope I got all of your calls in. I'm rubbing my eyes. I think I got something in my eyes when we were there because this place is huge, this place they took me. It goes on for miles. It was over off of 30, up past Rockwall. It's called Shenanigans. It's got, it had laser tag, indoor miniature golf that's in a dark room, and it's fluorescent colors. It's unbelievable. They had a bounce house room with 7 huge bounce houses, an indoor slick track for racing electric cars, not the ones that go, They had 24 bowling lanes. They had a full-blown restaurant, a bar. They had a huge game room that had every game in the world. Let's see what else. There was this other room that was, did I say laser tag? They had laser tag. And everything's indoors. And it's pretty impressive, I'll tell you. I would love to have been on that investment. So, shouts out to Shenanigans. In fact, they may let me have a live broadcast there this week. How about that? For payment of something, I don't know what, but I may start doing that, as a matter of fact. There's a lot of things on the table over here to either get this thing to where I'm making something in the form of retribution, in the form of payment to keep me motivated a little bit more, one way or the other. I'm talking with some people, even some big name people too. And so it's all good in the hood, I guess. I don't know. So that's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. If you don't believe me, then I look at that as your problem, not mine. So this is Debbie signing off for another long episode. And it's not just me, you mullets. It's not just me. It's everybody. Everybody's talking on the show. She does a 3-hour show. Well, no, everybody does a 3-hour show on my show, so y'all can all shut up. So anyway, I'll be on Spreaker, Skype for a little while. It's only 2. I slept half the day. Called in sick at church. No, I was a heathen today. I don't go to church. I can't stand organized religion. Are you kidding me? Those old women would go, "What is she doing in here? Who is that?" And I would be prone to flip them the finger. I won an ET doll tonight, and when Victor got a strike, I flipped the finger to Victor with the ET doll, ET, the terrestrial. And I looked over in this bowling league of these blue-haired ladies, was like, oh, and I was like, it's okay, ladies, he's my freaking husband. So anyway, I'm Debbie out. I'm not going to love you anymore. Love you, see you, wouldn't want to be you. I'll see you guys next time, all right?